anybody notice how much more of a success Donald Trump's rally in Atlanta was than Kamala's? Oh, and make sure you stay to the very end so I can give you a real sense of realization, okay? But let's get to the other factor before we get to Michaela Montgomery, because she just so happened to expose a lot about Kamala Harris. People actually stayed for the entirety of the rally. And the most wild part to me is the fact that Donald Trump did not change his accent. First of all, Michaela Montgomery, she is the founder of the Conservative Culture Organization. And as you can see yesterday, she addressed the crowd at Donald Trump's rally in Atlanta. During her speech, she heavily criticized Kamala Harris for, in quotations, not doing anything for the black community. But then she just so happened to mention Mr. Willie Brown. And you know what's really interesting about Willie Brown, right? Well, for those unfamiliar, like this article says, Willie Brown is a 90-year-old Democratic politician and former San Francisco mayor. And he reportedly dated Kamala Harris between 1994 and 1995. And allegedly, Brown was legally married to Blanche Brown at the time, but has been estranged from her since 1981. Brown was 60 years old, and Harris was 29 when they were reportedly dating. But somehow people are worried about Donald Trump allegedly cheating? Look, I'm just saying, if you're going to hold one side accountable, you need to hold the other side accountable as well. But 60 years old while she was 29? Oh, man. I wonder how she got her start as a prosecutor. Anyways, Michaela Montgomery said something that was very important that I think everybody really needs to hear. She said that, in quotations, it was a learning experience for my students because they were able to see and experience firsthand how the media can wrap the perception of an opinion or a person. Kind of like how people started leaving Kamala Harris's rally after Megan Thee Stallion just so happened to hop off stage, which, by the way, is how she chose to represent the ATL. Do you know how disrespectful and disgraceful that was? But this part, though, everybody really needs to see this part so they can gain some clarity. And no, this isn't a Fox News article. Trump said Montgomery, who attended Clark Atlanta University, had recognized him in public and commended him for funding historically black colleges and university, which is actually true, and you can go find that out for yourself. But he said, in quotation, she looks at me, says it's President Trump. You saved my college. And he said, how the hell do you know that? This one is so smart, so sharp. It's funny because a lot of people do not know what he has done for the black community already, because let's keep in mind, he was already president once. And people are so worried about him taking away women's rights. But did he take away women's rights when he was president? Has Kamala Harris, as the borders are for the past 4 years, put women in danger? I don't know. You tell me. How many undocumented migrants have already hopped over the border? Common sense, people. That's what this is, okay? But then again, common sense would also be realizing that the same exact individuals that just so happened to propose a TikTok ban now ironically have TikToks for themselves and their campaigns. But nobody wants to talk about that one, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You gotta love it. Yeah, I've got to tell you guys, I'm kind of blown away. You guys have been in chat together for about 2 years now, and neither of you has known the other was there because your names are not the same as on Pal Talk. That's why I made that comment, guys. It's for those of you just trying to figure out what the hell I was talking about. Brother Ganja, who is Fred, and Brother Don, who is just be cool, are guys that I used to spend a very large amount of time in a chat room talking about cannabis and what we can do to grow better and grow, get better yields and everything from our plants and stuff like that. And here they are in chat on a conspiracy theorist channel. and they didn't even know each other were there. I think that's great. Yeah. Well, no, actually, I don't know where people come up with that word stoner. We're more like weeders. We're weeders, not stoners. I don't walk around with rocks in my pocket. I walk around with weed in my pocket, So we're weeders, not stoners. And all three of us have medical conditions that we use it for. So, yeah. But I think that's great. I think that's awesome. You guys now know who each other are, so you guys will be having some conversations. I know that. And as I promised Ganja, I've got a lot of content in regards to England, and it's funny. Up until I made the comment yesterday during the live that I have not seen anything coming out of England um, in my feed, which was 100% accurate. There was absolutely nothing. The only thing that was coming up was Ireland stuff, and that was it. And then as soon as I finished the podcast yesterday, what happens? Um, the first post that's on my Hoojimmy was in fact something going on in the UK, and I'm trying to get back to that right now. Things have kind of escalated over there, um, and not a little bit of escalation, but actually quite a bit of escalation. People are finally at a point where um, they're done. They're done. They're not. They're not taking it anymore. And unfortunately, that's where we have to get. We have to have our frustrations and everything's all to the certain level of of being at a point where we want to draw this to a conclusion. We want to be part of drawing this to a conclusion. Um, and it's going to be necessary, you know. And okay, this is where I took left off yesterday. And I still have not gotten an update report on that guy who was arrested and his kid with his kid. I've been watching for it. I have not seen one yet. But as soon as there is one, I'm going to absolutely share it with you guys, because I would like to see that guy sue the hell out of him, and that'd be it. You know, um, whoa, 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 whoa! What are you doing? What do you? No, I got all the way to where I was supposed to be, and you. Oh my. Okay, now I'm a little bit mad. Lucky I'm quick on the draw here, pal. Yeah, lucky, lucky, lucky. Oh, dang nabbit. Come on, get to it. Get to my spot where we left off yesterday. Give me a hard time about this. Got to keep going. I actually like it when I can catch. There we go. When I can catch the little slider thing on the side there. When you first jump to your feed, if you grab it real quick and move it down, you can move down about halfway down your feed, which is pretty good. Yeah. All right. Ian Carroll has got some conversation. He said the stage is being set for the biggest financial crash in history, and we kind of see that coming. We've talked about this many times, guys. You know that that is their goal, is to do do as much as they can to create havoc in our lives. So here we go, Ian Carroll.
This year, they're going to pop the biggest financial bubble in all of history. And I think I know why. Let's start by talking to our good buddy, Fred. If you don't know, Fred is the official website from the Federal Reserve where they publish all kinds of official economic data. And Fred can tell you a lot of things. Like, for example, that US GDP, the total value of all the stuff that the US makes that's
Fred's getting in all my stuff. What are you doing, Fred? You better knock it off.
real, is going up slowly, and that US debt is skyrocketing. This is not news to anyone that has eyes. I mean, we've all seen the meme of Jerome Powell and his money printer by now. No matter how you slice it, money's just getting printed. They measure the total money in the system in different ways. They call them M1, M2, M3. M1 is a particularly cute chart. M2 includes more theoretical money that's just numbers and other screens. And so that spike in 2020 is not quite as intense because it has more factors involved. But no matter what you look at, the money supply is going to the moon. But you know what else is going to the moon? Derivatives exposure. Again, GDP is on this chart in green because it's not changing at all, really, while derivatives are skyrocketing. Derivative is the financial term for like placing bets that are just arbitrary that we make up ourselves, not like buying a stock and the stock's value goes up because the company's value goes up. Derivatives are people in the financial institutions or just you and me making bets based upon other things. Like I bet JP Morgan stock will be worth this much more on that day. I'll put $1,000 on it, which sounds legit because it's, people make bets, but it allows for huge amounts of leverage in the system. Because JP Morgan stock might go up by $1, but we might have bets that mean that changes our bets by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Although in the real world, we're talking millions and billions of dollars. It's an extremely complex topic, but just so you know what we're talking about here, the top 3 financial institutions in the United States are currently sitting on $50 trillion worth of derivative bets each. This chart is in millions of dollars. So 49 million is $49 trillion. And if you notice their assets column, Goldman Sachs is sitting on $47 trillion of derivatives, and they don't even have $500 billion of actual assets to back up all those bets. Because, when you make a bet, the other side is like, okay, but how do I know you're good for it? And you're like, well, check out my nice car. Right? Like the car is your asset that backs up the money that you're promising to pay. So yeah, they're sitting on 100-to-1 leverage right there. And a lot of economists have termed this the everything bubble for good reason, because as all this money got pumped into the system, it skyrocketed the value of stocks, just all stocks, cryptocurrencies, you name it. But we've also seen huge rises in things like mortgage-backed securities. This is since 2010. These are the things that caused the 2008 housing collapse. Yeah, they're on the up. Oh, and so are student loan asset-backed securities. A security is like a slice of pie where you like put a whole bunch of debts or a whole bunch of things into a pool and you slice up into little slices and then you sell pieces of it as investments. Like, a company gets sliced up and they sell shares of the company as stocks. Those are securities. So student loan asset-backed securities means when they take everyone's student loans, put them all that debt into a big pool, then they slice it up into little slices, and then they sell those slices as securities so you can make money off of collective student loan debt. Well, let's be real. You can't make money off of it because you don't know how to do this, but they make money off of it. I think this chart shows the phenomenon a little bit more clearly because it's a new thing. This is what we call financial innovation, folks. Oh, but they're also doing it to your car loans too, obviously, which are at record highs right now. But also consumer credit card debt is also at record highs. And you all already know this shit. We all know that we're fucked. But the point is that right now, everything's fucked all at once. And the stock market's insane pump over the last decade or two. And a huge amount of that value in the market is actually just derivative value of made up money of bets propping everything up with fake money that's not actually real, just making everything look like it's really valuable. Because in the financial world, if everyone's making side bets on Apple going up, that increases Apple's value because everyone's hyped. Apple stock goes up, everyone gets more hyped, they make more side bets that Apple stock will go up. You see what I'm saying there? Just if you hadn't looked closely and read yet, that line says 600 trillion. But some estimates put derivative exposure in the quadrillions, which is a stupid number. And I phrase it that way because we don't actually know the size of the market because over-the-counter derivatives are not regulated and they have very lenient reporting standards, thanks to a certain guy that we'll talk about in a second. And all of this has been carefully executed by a small set of financial executives and power people who love to act like they don't understand the basics of inflation and the economy, and they just could never have predicted the situation that we find ourselves in, but have convenient resumes of being total stooges for the Federal Reserve, despite now working for the government, because those two organizations are not. Or the chair of the Fed, who is the master of, I just didn't know printing money would cause inflation. Because I'm sure Jerome Powell did not understand the most basic facts about how money works when George H.W. Bush named him Undersecretary of the Treasury in 1992. So to clarify, he went from the private sector working for investment banks to the public sector working for the government, back to the private sector working for the Carlyle Group during the Iraq War. There's no rabbit hole to be done on that whole can of shit. And now back to the public sector in charge of the Federal Reserve. Or is that the private sector? I'm not really clear on that one. And then, of course, the guy that's in charge of regulating the whole thing, Gary Gensler, the chair of the Securities Exchange Commission, which is like the financial regulatory institution of the United States. Well, he worked at Goldman Sachs for 18 years before taking the little revolving door into the government, where he's worked for Goldman Sachs ever since, to be clear. But back in the turn of the century, Gensler worked with Lawrence Summers to push for passing the Commodity Futures Modernization Act, which exempted over-the-counter derivatives from regulation. You know, these over-the-counter derivatives that are currently worth hundreds of trillions of dollars of unchecked, Lord knows what kind of leverage. He also did a stellar job of specifically failing to regulate the crypto industry in very suspect-looking ways, going after every legitimate actor except for the dude that broke everything, who totally didn't have weird ties to, like, never mind. In case you didn't know, in the build-up to 2008, the big boys knew what was coming because they were the ones inflating that bubble, and they popped it at a very specific time with very specific actions. And they timed it very specifically to bring in our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama, who promised to regulate the banks. And that did not go well. And today, the situation is 10 times worse, and the whole world is 10 times as fucked. And throughout all of history, there's only one thing that solves major economic crises on a global scale. But this time, a global war isn't enough to fix it, because it's not just a global economic crisis, it's a currency collapse. And all throughout history, a currency collapse leads to the rise of a new currency. And who have you heard talking an awful lot over the last year about introducing a new kind of currency that's going to make the world a much better place? And if we're being honest, it's looking more and more like in 2024, they're either going to let Trump win or do something really shady to make the election not happen. Because they're actually trying to run 80 whatever year old Biden against him. And what better time to pop the largest financial bubble in all of human history than right before you let Trump have office again? Just think about it.
Yep. They're going to make a gold mine. Yep. I can't play that one because it's a movie. All right. This guy seems pretty highly decorated for a crazy conspiracy theorist. Yep. Let's take a listen.
And the impact of a jet. From what I understand, the outer skeleton of the building, the outer columns was like a fishnet, and you had these inner core columns, which was substantial, thick steel beams to withstand 4 or 5 times what the loads were. The engineers always over-design a building. No steel frame building has ever collapsed before or since 9/11. So that should say something right there. And it said that Building 7, it was a progressive collapse, that it was caused by fire. But progressive collapse, unlike the Twin Towers collapse from the top down. That's a progressive collapse, floor by floor by floor. But if you look at the videos of Building 7 collapsing, it collapses uniformly. It's collapsing from the bottom. The building stays intact all the way to the bottom of the ground, and you could see the sides caving in on it. For a building to collapse uniformly, which the videos show, all the load-bearing columns would have had to have failed simultaneously. Now, fire doesn't act like that. I came across an analogy of the Twin Towers, and if you could visualize cast iron stoves, stacked one on top of each other. The stoves up at the top, yes, there's fire and they've been damaged, but the stoves on the bottom, they haven't been damaged. So the structure underneath all of that is intact. So it's impossible for a building to collapse near free fall speed and increase
without a controlled demolition.
You're running into the path of most resistance. So something else is going on. I don't believe that it was just the planes or the fire.
I don't believe it was just the planes or the fire either. Yep. I think that there was a whole bunch of nefarious entities at play that day. And it's crazy because I was in New York when that happened. And now there were some planes that flew over because we saw one, and we also heard the explosion. But it didn't sound like a plane crashed into the building. I think it was a plane that was slightly off course after takeoff and had to correct itself. So do I believe that the planes went into the building? Absolutely not. I think that those planes were landed someplace else. They changed the numbers on them. They paid off all the people who were on them to act dead and give them new lives. And that was it. That's what I think. But that's what I think. All right. Scenes at Liverpool. Hundreds of thousands of angry, scared, furious, and fed up Brits filled towns across the country. You have to go back years to find scenes like this. Resign, Keir Starmer. This is on you. It's clear you orchestrated this with the deliberate words you chose. Yep. That's just one of the scenes. There's many more. Here we go. Unreal. People in Britain protesting against open borders are now being attacked by people with hammers and axes, shouting Allah Akbar. Yep.
They've got knives.
Yeah.
Where's Aaron? Where's Aaron? Up there! Up there! Up there! Where's Aaron? They've got knives.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Here's some Matt Kim at the Trump rally, and the lines are crazy.
All right, guys, so we're at the Trump rally in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is, I mean, packed, ridiculously packed. Thousands, I don't even know how, I can't even count that high. It's so many damn people. And it's everywhere. It's gonna be an interesting night. All right, guys, so we're at the Trump rally.
Yeah. So that was Matt Kim. Here's some Clement.
California, you are dying because of a drought. Watch my sign. Watch the sign of rain. For I told you there would be severe wind from above. And all the states that are affected by this severe weather have been set up for a shaking of my spirit and an outpouring of my spirit. But California, I'm looking at you. Gold, stone, California, a smaller statue. And God says, once you recognize the man that I have raised up, pray. For the enemy will do everything in his power to put a witch in the White House. Did anybody hear what he just said? For Jezebel has chased away the prophets and even Elijah. Come on. Now I have said, go back. For this shall be dismantled so that there will be no more corruption in the White House, says the Spirit.
Yeah, it's coming. Bit by bit by bit. Yep. If you missed it, Senator Todd Young accidentally said the quiet part out loud. Listen closely.
American capital and expertise in standards to Africa so that we can keep exploiting, so that we can exploring where we can get these minerals. American.
Yeah. He told the truth the first time. Exploiting. That's what they've been doing for years. Years and years and years. Yep. All right, here's one for you.
Yeah, very unique. You don't hear about this kind of thing every day. Anyone who's read the book The Da Vinci Code or seen the movie probably knows something about the Knights Templar. They're basically an ancient law enforcement organization that these 3 people who were arrested claim to be a part of. A lot of people think this group is fake. However, there are real consequences for impersonating an officer of the law. And that's just what the LA County Sheriff's Department arrested these folks for. Take a look at their mugshots right here. These 3 people have all identified themselves as being members of the Masonic Fraternal Police Department. And according to the LA Times, one of the suspects, Brandon Keel, was an aide to California State Attorney General Kamala Harris. When officers searched the homes of these 3 in Santa Clarita, they say they found weapons, badges, vehicles, uniforms, and other law enforcement type equipment. Just the kind of items that would give the impression that these people were real sworn police officers. Keel, along with Tanette Hayes and David Henry, the chief of the so-called Masonic Fraternal Police Department, were all arrested for impersonating a peace officer. Now, this is a serious offense that can come with prison time. Law enforcement says they became aware of this illegitimate police organization when the group contacted the Santa Clarita Sheriff's Station and met with the station's captain. Now, it's unclear why the group wanted to do that. The Masonic Police Organization claims to be a part of a modern-day branch of the fabled Knights Templar, a group that dates back basically 1,000 years. As the chief of Santa Clarita's home, the windows out there, we checked it out. They were all shut. No one came to the door when we knocked. Neighbors tell us the Masonic couple that lives there were very friendly, and no one thought they were suspicious.
I've seen 25 cop cars, and I had no clue what happened. I was just coming to get the mail, and I just saw the police opening the garage and just checking everything in the garage. He had the specific ring, and I just asked about it, and it's about an Illuminati. It's a Masonic, and then it goes back from ancient times.
All 3 of the suspects were released the same day from jail that they were arrested. Now, officers believe there are more people a part of this Masonic Fraternal Order of Police, and they're urging anyone with information to come forward.
Yeah. So, fake cops, no different than most of the real cops, because the largest number of our police forces are involved in the Masonic Lodge, the Masonic Order, whatever you want to call them. It'll be interesting to see the downfall of that organization completely. Yeah. Things just keep getting weirder.
On July 30th at 10 a.m., Lee drove past Secret Service checkpoints and straight towards the estate's southern gate. Now, in violation of the trespassing warning, he was arrested. It's important to note Trump was not at Mar-a-Lago that day. A judge did give Lee a no-contact order for former President Trump and anyone associated with him or his campaign. He's not the first Chinese citizen to face charges, though, for trying to gain access to Mar-a-Lago. A woman was arrested in 2019 after the Secret Service said she lied to get into the club. The former President Trump, he does split his time between New Jersey and Palm Beach during the summer. He's not here right now, but is expected to return Saturday after traveling to Atlanta for a campaign rally with J.D. Vance. As for Lee, Palm Beach County court records do show that he is still sitting in jail, Brett, on a $10,000 bond. He's expected to be in court on Monday, on July 30th at 10 a.m.
So interesting. Yep. All right, here we go.
A lot of people realized the opening ceremony for the Olympics was weird, but most people really have no idea how weird. For example, one of the people in the throuple takes this book off the shelf when they're in the library. And this book, Devil in the Flesh, is about a grown woman having an affair with an underage boy. Of all the French books, why why that one? The throuple then goes on to their private quarters to initiate a three-way. Door is closed before we get to any of the spicy parts, but it was still aired on live television when like children from all over the world are watching. And I get that French culture is a little more open when it comes to things like zegs, but there's a line. There's definitely a line, and I think they knew it was in poor taste because a lot of French people were upset about this, and they have scrubbed the internet of footage from the opening ceremony. So that right there says a whole lot. Then we had this guy with his literal nuts hanging out on stage next to children. There was plenty of footage of grown adults dancing sexually alongside children. Now let's get to the Last Supper. And people have come back and been like, oh, it's not the Last Supper, it's the Feast of Dionysus. Actually, first of all, those things aren't exclusive of each other. And second, the person who had the halo, right, who was presumably a Christ figure, was literally saying that she was drag Jesus. So don't give me that. And second, people who study mythology have drawn lots of parallels between the story of Dionysus and the story of Christ. When people compare Jesus to mythological figures, whether that's right or wrong, that came before Jesus, Dionysus is one of the most common ones that people will draw parallels to. So these things aren't exclusive of each other, and it was offensive to Christians. And the other thing to know about Papa Daddy Smurf, Dionysus, is that he has all kinds of ties to Masonic rites, rituals, and lineage, and his feasts are very much associated with depravity. And here's the thing: grown adults, consenting adults, can do whatever they want, but to have children in the presence of that is not okay. And I don't care what culture you're from, especially because before that scene, we were shown that book in the library, which is literally a story about a PDF. They are trying to normalize this, and none of this is normal, and none of this is okay. Exposing children to things that were frankly lewd is not okay. Thinly veiled references to PDF behavior is not okay. Allowing a known predator to compete is not okay. And allowing people who fail gender eligibility tests to compete against women is not okay. This is an agenda, and I hope that the opening ceremony woke some people up to the fact that this is an agenda, and it does not have our well-being in mind. It certainly does not have the well-being of our children in mind.
Yep, sure enough. All right, True Seeker. The multiverse theory from a different perspective. True Seeker 01011.
Do you guys believe in the multiverse theory? Because I was going down a rabbit hole, so this is my own philosophy about things, but basically the multiverse theory states that there are multiple, like infinite amount of possibilities and timelines all happening at the same time, and that you're living different realities all at the same time. You're just conscious in different ones at certain times. And so I started to think about this. What if we actually visit those timelines in our dreams? Because you know when you wake up sometimes out of a really deep sleep and you can't really tell which, like, what was reality and which one isn't, you know, like you had such a real dream that you kind of, it takes you a while to balance out what was real and what wasn't. So that made me go down a completely different rabbit hole of what happens with people that go into comas. Now, this is completely my own philosophy, so we're just kind of talking and randomly making theories. But there's two things that happen in comas, whether they are naturally induced, so they're induced via medicines, or if they happen naturally because of a very traumatic accident. Now, the people who are medically induced into comas, apparently that they have a lot of nightmares where they pick up sensory things that are happening around them in the hospital and then dream about them or have nightmares about them in their state of coma. However, people who naturally go into comas, they go into such a deep sleep that when they are pulled back into this reality, they have a very hard time realizing what was real and what wasn't. And I actually read a couple of these stories and they're absolutely fascinating. Let me just show you. So this lady wrote, I don't know if I dreamed, but I do remember something the memory blockers couldn't stem. When I woke up, it felt like someone had pulled me violently from one world I knew to another. Then this article says the man who woke up from a coma with memories of another person's life. Then there's this story of the person who thought they were actually 60 years old when they woke up when they were actually 20. Then this famous one where it says, I had a coma family and kids. That was the one where he looked at a lamp and the lamp didn't seem real. And then he stayed up for 3 days in his coma life, only to get pulled into a completely different reality. Now, we've heard of people coming out of a coma and speaking a completely different language and remembering past lives, such as Edie, who remembered everything in Egypt and actually helped a lot of archaeologists. And I talked about her in the past. And so now I'm wondering if dreams are actually a place where we go to these parallel universes to experience something, but not that fully as if you were conscious in it. That's why they seem blurry when you wake up. I don't know. I kind of thought that was pretty cool. And I kind of loved reading about what happens to the brain as well when people are in comas. So then I went and found an article, which now I have lost, but it basically states that people in comas, versus people sleeping, show the same brain waves. So those people who wake up with like really vivid dreams because they went to a really deep sleep have the exact same brain wavelengths as people who went into a natural coma. And people in induced comas and people who are sleeping lightly, where you can't really remember your dream, it kind of seemed real, but it wasn't, also have the exact same brain waves that are being formed in the experiment. And so I thought that maybe we could actually somehow visit these different parallel universes by using a form of calming ourselves with our brain waves, and actually almost astro traveling to different timelines. But I don't know. I kind of totally made that up with what I was reading. But I want to know what you guys think and what you guys know, and if you guys can like add to this, or just probably tell me that I've drank way too many wines, but I didn't.
Wine. Okay. So mass gangs armed with axes and hammers are hunting down people in Britain that are protesting against open borders. Yeah.
Back from the summer love. Joey Essex is here with.
Yeah, crazy. All right, here we go.
Oh. Hello?
Hi, is your name Dave Holder?
Dave? No.
Dave Holder.
James? Yeah.
Okay. The reason I'm coming to your door is I had somebody look into that thing in your yard that I think is a monstrosity, and I don't really like the way it's like degrading our neighborhood. And he looked for the electric company, and he said that's not your property. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to remove it, or I will be making a complaint.
Hey, check this out. A couple points. When we moved in, we had a survey done that is 110% my property. That the county will verify it.
It says it is the roadway easement.
It's not the easement. I've got a survey. And this is the thing. You guys need to mind your own business. It's my yard. It's not. If the county could have did something about it, they would have.
Okay, but it's our neighborhood, and you're degrading our neighborhood and bringing down our. I mean, this is just somebody who lives in the neighborhood.
It's. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what you think, lady. And listen, turn your ass around and get off my property.
Okay, well, I am going to be making a complaint. I just wanted to let you know because it is our neighborhood. Put it on your mantle. But don't degrade our neighborhood. I don't care who you vote for, but it's disgusting monstrosity.
Your fucking attitude's disgusting. Don't come back to my yard. Hey.
And your trespass signs are also not in the yard.
Hey, guess what? Trump's going to be your daddy again.
And that's his sign. That's his sign right there on his property, right underneath the American flag. Yep, that's his sign. She didn't like that. Not one bit. No, she didn't. All right, here we go.
Only black women like her. Only single black mothers like her. But black women who got black husbands don't like Kamala. You ain't seen no black woman with a black husband come out and supported Kamala Harris. Only single black mothers that got multiple baby daddies by different men, yeah, like Kamala Harris and support her.
That's true. But what about why did like Megan Thee Stallion go like twerk on stage with her?
Men, hoes flock together. Kamala Harris was a hoe. Megan Thee Stallion is a hoe. Bird, silver feather flock together. You know how that go. Hoes run with hoes.
That's true. That's true. Damn.
And you saw first thing she did on stage, start doing, shaking her backside, doing what hoes do. She didn't talk. She went to shaking her head like a hoe.
Yeah, she could have said a little message. She had nothing to say. She just started shaking.
Only black women like her. Only.
Only single black women with multiple baby daddies. Yeah, they're the only ones. Yeah. All right. More on Blackpool. Yeah. It's a happening. It's a happening. All right. All right.
Before you guys like, how come you guys never go to a Kamala rally? You don't go to a Democratic rally? I tried. I tried to get in. I applied for tickets. They wouldn't accept me. Actually, they completely ignored me. I tried. I swear, I tried to go to the Kamala rally in Atlanta, and they wouldn't let me in. Before you.
Yeah, just the way it goes. All right, JD Vance gives remarks. Or no.
But let me also tell you, when I was 12 years old, I had to watch my father come home with shards of glass and blood dripping down his face from 9/11. We were there. I don't want to be there or hear about another terrorist attack on our soil that could be prevented. When you allow 11 million undocumented people to walk across our border, you are allowing an attack to happen. It's common sense. How could you ever fathom allowing someone to even run for office who doesn't want to even enforce our laws, who doesn't think it's important to even visit our border? How is it possible that she makes a joke on the news media saying, why are you asking me about visiting the border? I haven't even gone to places in Europe. Well, newsflash, you're running for president of the United States of America. Take your time and get to learn these 50 states, as many of us have. But let me also tell you.
Yeah. Yep. All right, here we go.
A German flat Earth map from World War II has just been uncovered, and it depicts another ice wall all around Earth with other continents and land masses that are outside of it. And supposedly, Germany during this time period went on expeditions. See these black circles? I had to erase that so we didn't see their symbol, but this is supposedly where they went out and just claimed this land. Here's New Schwabenland, whatever that is, and they actually have Asgard way over there. And then up here we've got Terra de Vista. I'm not sure what that is, and I don't know what that is either. Is that supposed to be the top of the earth or something? And then over here we have the lost continent of Lemuria, which apparently went underneath the sea and sank somehow, but I guess it's on this map from the 1940s. But a lot of these words we can't even read because it's in German, but this is also a reflection of the moon map, if you've ever seen that.
Yeah. I think we're going to learn a whole lot about this world that we live in. I do. All right. Clandestine says, just so we are clear, we now have concrete proof found guilty on all counts in the court of law that there was a Hollywood sex cult that owned 11 daycares worldwide, found guilty of human sex trafficking, and the media have been silent about it. If this isn't news, what is? True enough. All right. Groups of Muslims calling themselves the Muslim Defense League are assembling in towns and cities across the UK in response to the Patriot protests. Despite these thugs being masked, there are once again no riot police, horses, or dogs for them. I'd be willing to lend y'all some dogs. If you need some dogs, I'll lend you some. I will. But you got to bring them back, and they got to come back in one piece. You know. Yeah. All right. Now the number says, what really goes on behind these walls? 29-story building in New York City with absolutely no windows. 29 stories. Sealed concrete. Makes you wonder, right? Yep. Makes you wonder. All right, here's more. Liverpool erupts. Violence breaks out in Liverpool city centers. This British have simply reached the boiling point. Yep. Yep. So, yep, they've had it. They have had it. All right. This is huge. Like I said, Kamala won't be there come November. All right. Kamala Harris doesn't have the mental capacity to do a real debate against me, says Donald Trump. Scheduled for September 4th in Pennsylvania. She's afraid to do it because there's no way she can justify her corrupt and open borders, the environmental destruction of our country, the Afghanistan embarrassment, runaway inflation, terrible economy, high interest rates and taxes, and her years-long fight to stop the words Merry Christmas. I'll see her on September 4th, or I won't see her at all. She is acknowledged to be the worst vice president in history, which works very nicely against the worst president, crooked Joe Biden. The combination of these two low IQ individuals have destroyed our country, but we will make America great again. And here we go with QPost 1347. They are freaking out because someone in Iran has threatened to name names of politicians in the West who have took bribes to get the deal done. There is a twat to that effect a couple of breads ago. News beginning to leak, not new to Anons, old, future proves past, eyes on, and Q. So, yep. It all going to come burning down around them. Yep. Scott Lebedo. This is funny.
Hello, America. What's the difference between a joke and 10 penises? The vice president can't take a joke. No. I told you, this is my equipment. That's why I keep the
He says, "What's the difference between a joke and 10 penises?" And the vice president, the vice president can't take a joke. Oh boy! All right. Breaking. I almost never say breaking, so listen up. CISA, that's the CISA, and the FBI have put out a very ominous warning about a potential election attack to this fall. Here's the part of their bulletin that really concerns me. They say this PSA is to raise awareness that a DDoS attack is, well, let's just take a look at it. So, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and the Federal Bureau of Investigation jointly released, just so you know, DDoS attacks could hinder access to election information, would not prevent voting. This public service announcement is to raise awareness that distributed denial of service attacks on election infrastructure or adjacent infrastructure that supports election operations could hinder public access to election information, but would not impact the security or integrity of election process. The PSA is part of the agency's ongoing commitment to provide the public with information and the election infrastructure community with the support they need to run a safe and secure election. Listen, if this shit happens, it's because they planned it and it was intentional, so it's a crime. And they'll get caught. All right. Here we go.
Did you know that a cargo ship owned by J.P. Morgan, Chase the bank, was seized with nearly 20 tons of cocaine at least, street value of $1.3 billion. Did you know that United States officials apprehended this ship in 2019? The ship, the MSC Gayane, is owned by J.P. Morgan, an asset manager clients, through a transportation fund managed by the bank. J.P. Morgan leased the ship to a Mediterranean shipping company, a Switzerland-based shipping company, which is solely responsible for the vessel's crew and operation. Of course, J.P. Morgan Chase declined to comment, but the Mediterranean shipping company said in a statement, "Unfortunately, shipping and logistics companies are from time to time affected by trafficking problems." But ironically, neither JP Morgan Chase nor MSC are targets of the criminal investigation. The irony in this seizure is that the US government is only going to target the crew members. They're not going to target anybody who has real control over the power of this vessel. Not the propulsion of it. I mean, who can afford a $100 million vessel? Eventually, at least 8 guys were convicted after somehow they agreed to confess. But nobody ever really heard about this because we all had to get ready for COVID. Just things that can, affect the world when certain entities get in trouble that aren't allowed to get in trouble or even pay those consequences. Now, since the big companies are not a target in this investigation, one has to really ask themselves a few things before they just say, okay, they're innocent. Look at the history. Do your own Google search. Check out what a normal smuggling drug seizure really looks like. You'll come to understand that normal seizures are worth millions of dollars, hundreds of millions, maybe even. There's rarely a time when you hit the billions of dollars. And we're talking about pounds. And every now and then you'll get somewhere around 8 tons or 9 tons. But with this seizure, they released pretty soon after it was discovered that it was around 20 tons on this ship. But sources say that there's likely another 32 tons at least that's still on the ship. Why would they say this? Because there's an extra 32 tons of weight unaccounted for on the ship. If you've ever been in trucking before, when you go to a weigh station, it's the same concept. If you have unaccounted weight on your truck, somebody's going to make a phone call. So when you do your little Google search and see the drug seizures of smuggling in the United States, you'll see that there's several millions of dollars to be seized there. But these are just fishing boats. These are just people traveling. These are just small type organizations. The real criminals that are out there doing this, if you could say that. And then you have a major corporation involved here. And these major corporations are definitely not going to risk anything for no $60 million. But you have $1.2, $1.3 billion worth of drugs. When you're involved in this billion-dollar company, finally, a billion-dollar company is involved in it. And what do you know? Billions of dollars worth of drugs are being smuggled. Billions. Remember, it was back in 2019, but we all remember what happened in 2019. We all had to get ready for COVID.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. The Witching Science with Trey Smith. Here we go.
In Greek mythology, Pharmakia has essentially three women. This is the general story of and obviously with like most Greek mythology or any mythology, there's a little variance to the story, but the general concept works like this. Pharmakia has these three women. One is a human woman, and the other one isn't human at all. It's the human woman's assistants, which are nymphs. All right, so there's three girls. The one woman who his maid, if you will, is overseeing the two nymphs who oversee a pool or a well of poison. And when you take an arrow and dip it into this poisonous pool of water, if you strike an animal with it, it kills it immediately. But if you strike a man, it kills him slowly.
Right.
The name of the woman is Corona.
This film is about all sorts of coincidences, Greek mythology.
And we aren't going to cover it because we know what he's covering. And I didn't realize that when I selected that for the play today. Yeah, sorry about that. What are the top 2 or 3 things that are important to you when it comes to the next president? Asks Shrek. Here we go.
Trump is not the reason for your depression. It's probably your poor lifestyle choices is what's causing your depression. There's also been studies about chemical imbalances and things like that, but I don't really know a lot about that. That would be a really good thing to go talk to your doctor about. And I don't want to send any hate your way. I don't. So please do not go hate on this woman. I haven't been on here much this weekend. The reason for that is we just got a lot going on. We had a dumpster delivered. We're purging a whole lot of stuff this weekend. You know, it really doesn't matter. But the point about it is I haven't been on here much, not engrossing myself in what's going on in the political realm or online. I find myself thinking about, well, what if? Like, what if something happens? And I'm just going to go from my experience on this. Trump doesn't win. Really, the only thing that's going to impact me and my life, okay, it comes down to about 2 things. Are my children going to have to go to war? It's a very real possibility. And financially, is inflation going to get worse? Are they going to get it figured out? Or is Kamala and her team, are they going to be able to? Probably not. Because they're running with Joe's same plan and billions of dollars overseas to other countries for their wars. Probably not going to get any better. Everything else I can mitigate on my own. What my kids are being taught in school or what they're not being taught in school, I can teach or not teach it. Conversations we can have at home. We've already had conversations about propaganda and headlines and then making sure that we're reading legislation before we go and we try to talk about it or let us emotionally affect us. Pretty young, but they see things. They're, they see TikToks, they see things, questions, and I'm very open to answering them questions. And a lot of times those answers end with, I need you to go look more into this before you make a decision, whether that's policies or Bigfoot. We've had a lot of talks about Bigfoot lately. I don't know what to do. Them to be open-minded. They're very aware of school and how that kind of works. They're pretty aware that school is kind of a game. They have to find a way to play the game, and we help them through that. Really, that's it. That's it. There's really nothing else that would affect my life if Kamala wins over Trump. I have boys that want to go play in girls' sports. My boys are welcome to love who they want to love, regardless of gender. I don't have very strong ideologies around any of that. Go do what you want to do. You're my kids. I'm gonna love you regardless. It doesn't matter to me. I get fired up about things. I was pretty fired up about the Olympics thing, but at the end of the day, and this is kind of what I thought about because I haven't been engrossed in it the last couple of days. At the end of the day, that doesn't affect me either. When they mocked Jesus Christ in the Last Supper, I mean, I was angry. I said what I needed to say, but it doesn't physically affect me. I can't change that. And I'm sure as hell not going to let it make me depressed or anxious because I can't change that. Trump does win, and we go back to the years of 2016 to 2020. I'll be pretty happy because those things that happened in my life, the no wars, which was a huge bonus. I don't have to worry about my kids going to war. That's great. And then the economy, and that's really what affects us here and now in this season in our lives. Interest rates and grocery prices and things like that. If Trump can get us back to that, I would be just fine. But if you find yourself being emotionally affected by politics, especially these kind of where it really it's kind of it's like a game, you need to step away and find something, meditate or eat better. Food has a big thing on that, and you eat better, and a hobby that brings you peace. Find something. Don't let this. Don't. It's not worth it. It's not going to change anything.
Yep. Doesn't do any good to get all mad and all puffy and all that good stuff, or bad stuff, I should say, because it's some things we can effectively change and some things we can't. That's where the serenity prayer comes in so handy at times is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So we change the things that we can. And we use wisdom to look at everything else. And that's what we do. That's what we do. Okay. Wall Street Babe says this is what living in Democrat-run Portland, Oregon is like. Oh, boy.
And so we are in Portland, Oregon right now. And you probably heard those stories of those cities in like San Francisco and stuff where they lock up all the food because of the thefts and stuff, or toothbrushes. But those are like, $10 or $15 items here. Check this out. They literally have $2 spices and pasta under lock and key. So you want to get spices, you want to get your Kraft dinner, you want to get your $2 Reese's Puff. They think it's worth locking that up because of the thefts here. That is pretty insane. Look at this, and you have these like bottles of wine, $12 with like trackable security locks on them. I mean, it's crazy, and I don't want to get too political here, but this is the most leftist or socialist city in America, and probably one of the only places where you can find something like this at the same time. Coincidence? I think not.
I think not, too. Yep. All right, hilarious. We just caught CNN using AI to make the crowd look bigger at Kamala Harris event. Here we go.
CNN just got caught using AI to try to make the crowds at a Kamala Harris event look bigger. Let me introduce you to Catherine Rampell. She works for the Washington Post and is a commentator on CNN. And this was the image she posted. She said, scenes from the Harris fundraiser in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Then people started noticing some little issues with this photo. And she said, getting spam claiming these photos are AI. Not sure why I'd use AI to create a crowd of people in downtown Pittsfield. Then people started zooming in. The fuck is going on with that road sign? How does that happen? Someone explain to me how they can put their hands through the fucking sign? And what fucking language is this? It's very obvious. This is all fake. They tried to take a tiny crowd at her fundraiser and make it some big event using AI. We're now at the point that in the last 2 days alone, he caught MSNBC editing a Joe Rogan clip to make it sound like he supported Kamala Harris, when actually he was talking about Tulsi Gabbard. Now we got CNN using AI to make it look like people give a shit about Kamala Harris. It has become very clear that the mainstream media is willing to lie directly to your face. It's up to you whether or not you're going to take it.
Well, and that's where the Smith Modernization Act comes in, is they're allowed to do it. They are allowed. All right, nothing can stop what is coming. I'm serious. You just don't understand what that means.
Script keeper. 60 seconds and your popcorn. So I took a break And, you know, I did a couple of lives on X. But if you're paying attention, Venezuela, we were telling everybody about Venezuela, how they were digging it into the ground. People were pushing wheelbarrows of their money to get bread and milk. They have a communist regime over there. And they were doing anything to get away from the centralized banking system. Centralized banking system has been around for a long time. You guys know how it went down. Woodrow Wilson, he sold us all out, 1913. Then you had the Federal Reserve Banking Act, and basically they just created money out of thin air. It was all paper. Just that's all it was. And anytime they needed more money, they would just print it up. So it's the U.S. oil dollar, oil reserves, and Venezuela's got they've got some, probably one of the largest oil reserves in the world, 110%. And this is why the beef is going on, why there's so much beef going on, and they're trying to do, you know, a changeover and take Maduro out. I mean, Maduro is connected to the Sandinistas, and it goes, you know, it goes back into the CIA.
Goes back to
This
the
goes back very,
Contra
very
era.
far, especially with Venezuela. Colombia, same thing. But if you look at the entire format of what we told you 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, of how there would be redemption of countries in misery, this is part of it. Now, you know, there were certain influencers saying that, oh, we just signed into BRICS. The U.S. did not sign into BRICS. We are still sitting here dealing with the U.S. dollar. We're still dealing with a crashing economy. The old guard must fall. I told you that the old guard was going to fall. You should also know that every 250 years, I would say, most empires crumble. Let's just read this real quick. All right. BRICS is setting up multi-currency system. Venezuela is in. BRICS is setting up an alternative to SWIFT. Venezuela is in. BRICS has put forward proposals in trade. Venezuela is in. Nicolas Maduro says. Venezuela also confirmed it has been invited to attend BRICS summit in Kazan in October. If you guys know how this goes, I don't need to tell you anymore. The centralized banking system was put in place to rule the world. This was the Rothschilds. It goes back to Orsini's. It goes back to the Borgias. Like this, guys, this shit goes deep. This is the first time you're seeing where people are breaking away. Countries are breaking away. Once they're breaking away from the centralized banking system and the U.S. Federal Reserve, you're seeing a change in the timeline right now. That's what's happening. I mean, if you really, really, really want to get in depth, we weren't at this point when Trump was in. We only came to this point with Biden in optically. Now, think about it. A corporation runs out, the corporation files bankruptcy, and it can still run. Now, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, the U.S. Corp didn't do that. It doesn't even matter if the United States Inc. corporation goes down. Y'all don't even understand how this works. If the Federal Reserve loses its grip and its power, it's a wrap. Gold will destroy the Fed. That's how it's been. And BRICS being in place the way that this is set up right now, this is why they took out Muammar Gaddafi. This is why they took out Saddam Hussein, and they went after Africa because they were starting their own gold dinar. This is a fast, in motion movement that is happening right now. This is speeding up the process. So the timelines are changing and switching. Let me show you. All the countries in white are BRICS. So you see the red, most of them are dependent on, you know, the Federal Reserve, and the U.S. does not want to give up its grip or its hold on the world. They're set in play. So what's happening now, the way that it's running, it's going to run its course. Nothing can stop what is coming. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to say that, huh? But I did. Now, to all the freedom fighters out there, the people that are fighting, you know, against what happened with the... I can't even say it right now because if I say it, y'all will be like, wait, what? All the freedom fighters that are standing up against any tyranny, all the freedom fighters that are standing up for their constitutional rights in these country right here where we live, the United States, all the freedom fighters that are in other countries that have a charter or a dispensation, whatever it is, some type of constitution over there, and you're standing up because you want your sovereignty, these inalienable rights that were given to you by your creator, keep up the fight. Don't stop. And the world sees what's going on. There's genocide happening left and right. Don't think that everything's a movie and this is old footage, that's old footage. Yes, the movie is the political spectrum, it's the political stage. But as far as reality, you can get caught slipping and you could die at any point in life.
Yep. You never know when you can take a terrible fall, right? Give me a second here. I'll be right with you. All right. Moving on. Moving on. Here we go.
Hey, Michaela, I know you spoke. Just come up for a second. Come on. This young woman, I walked into, I don't know what the hell restaurant it was, but I walked into this restaurant, and we do it very quietly. We don't announce it. That's for, security reasons, everything. I walked in. She's behind the counter, and she didn't know I was coming. And she goes, "It's President Trump." She looks at me. "It's President Trump. You saved my college." And I said, "How the hell do you know that?" She said, this one is so smart, so sharp. She grabbed me. She gave me a kiss. I said, "I think I'm never going back home to the First Lady."
You were supposed to keep that quiet.
See, now, for the average politician, that's death. For me, I don't care. I just want to tell you, you are an unbelievable person with a great personality. You lit up the whole room. You lit up the whole room. I said, weeks later, I'd go, "Who is that person that was so incredible?" She knew everything about me. She had no idea I was coming. She knew everything about me. And the historically black colleges and universities, I gave millions and millions, billions of dollars to. They kept coming back. And I said, "Why are you doing this?" And we gave them long-term funding. And she knew that because she said her college, she loved her college. She said it was so great, right? You loved it.
The illustrious CAU.
Yeah, that's right. She loved her college, and she said, "You saved my college." What was your college? Tell them.
The illustrious Clark Atlanta University.
And it was so impressive, and I felt so good because she really did. She really said, I said, "Did you like the college?" She said, "No, I loved that school. I loved that college." And that's what it's all about. But you are an incredible person. I think you have a tremendous future. I really do. And I'll do whatever I can to help you. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you.
You want to say something else?
Man,
Oh.
I thought I was done. But I do want to add on to some of the remarks that were made by others, and we do need to do our best to get the message out there. The fight is nothing if all we do is talk about it amongst ourselves. So with that being said, since you said you'd help me, shameless plug, if y'all need anybody to knock doors, make phone calls, wave signs, get people out to the polls, call me at Conserve the Culture. Because not only do I mobilize the HBCU students so that they may get this message, but I'm the best person when it comes to Black engagement in the Black community. And nobody needs this message more than my folks. So do y'all care for real? Are y'all with us for real? ConserveTheCulture.com for any and all inquiries. Y'all can follow me at Miss Kayla, baby. I'm going to give it back to Big T. Oh, last name.
Oh. All right. Well, Kathy Leander, she says, sitting on my back porch, I rolled one for my back pain. Well, Miss Kathy, let's fire them up. Okay, here we go. You want to know what the difference between me taking a couple of hits off of a pipe and taking an Oxycontin is? Oxycontin, I can't think. I can't function. I crave more. And the pain comes back in a very, very short period of time. With my cannabis, however, I take a couple of hits. It lasts a few hours, and all I have to do is puff once or twice more to keep it going. So, except for when I cough. That's the only part I don't like, because it does hit the back. Yes, it does. All right. I'm not going to cover that one. Secret Service whistleblower revealed in an affidavit that he was instructed to stand down and essentially allow Trump to be assassinated.
It would have taken foreknowledge either by the FBI or DHS, and Secret Services under DHS, of this individual planning to do what he did in the way that he did it. That is, going to the roof at that time in order to take a shot at the president. And someone within the FBI or within DHS would have then had to have communicated with DHS's Secret Service to say, stand down at this time, at this aspect of the perimeter, i.e. the roof. And so that's really the link here. And so the thing that needs to be drilled down to is the nature of the stand down. Again, we have a affidavit from a Secret Service whistleblower that they were supposed to be there, but they were told to stand down. And so everything else that you're identifying here really flows from this question of why they had such lax security, why they chose to ignore so many standard protocols. Well, that question may be answered by knowing the name of the officer who ordered that stand down from the roof. And that happened at 2 points, right? There was supposed to be someone on the roof. That person had to stand down. And there was supposed to be, as you mentioned, a sniper team with a line of sight to the roof. And they were not there. Now, whether they wandered off randomly or were they given a stand down order, were they told by someone else to go to a different roof? Well, the question here is sort of solved by knowing the name of the person who gave that order, because then you just get all the comms of that agent or officer and see who they're connected to, what advance notice they have. Were they in communications with the FBI? Did they have advance knowledge that there was a deranged loner planning to use the roof? Because if that's the case, then it's case closed and we can move right to prosecution.
And of course, we need to look into all of these. We're not getting any answers. We're not getting answers from the Secret Service is not giving any. The FBI is not giving any. Homeland Security is not getting any. This is why we need Jim Jordan, the Weaponization Committee. We need to start issuing subpoenas. We need to issue subpoenas right now.
Yeah. Need to start issuing subpoenas right now. No joke. All right. Older millennial, if you're going to try and claim Kamala Harris is popular, you're going to have to tell me what's changed.
New polling shows that Americans are more excited about Vice President Kamala Harris.
If you're going to try to convince me that people are excited about Kamala Harris, you're going to have to tell me what changed. If you're going to tell me that she's popular, you're going to have to tell me what changed. Because at no point in her entire history in office anywhere has she been popular. It's readily apparent, and she's even admitted that she only became the AG because of inside favors. I'm not going to dive into what those favors were, but safe to say you normally don't see those favors without a monthly subscription. Then when she became a senator, she didn't even run against anyone. There was no Republican on the ticket running against her when she ran to be senator. She just had another Democrat, a Democrat that she had to outspend by nearly 5 times in order to win that race. Her approval ratings as a senator were in the dumps. Like, nobody in California thought she was doing a good job. She regularly polled at anywhere from 20 to 30%. She was one of the lowest polling senators in the entire country and was ranked the most liberal member of Congress. Then she tried to run for president, and she polled at less than 1%. In fact, she was only in the race for like 64 days before she ran out of money because nobody was donating to her, because nobody liked her. And her polling as VP is consistently ranked as one of the lowest polling VPs in the history of the office. In fact, multiple media organizations have ranked her as the worst, or at least the least effective vice president ever. Now you're telling me she's popular and people are excited about her. Why? She hasn't put out any policies, hasn't said anything she plans to do. She doesn't have a platform to run on. She hasn't done anything as VP. She's only ever failed at everything she's been assigned to do. So what changed? What changed to make people excited about Kamala Harris? There has to be something. Or, hear me out, you could be full of shit.
No, he didn't go there, did he? He went there. He said, you might be full of shit. That's what he said. Yep. Gotta love it. Yeah, another day, another crime by an illegal, says lives at TikTok. Here we go.
Jose Yusira Astiano went before a judge today. He's charged with the murder of Melvin Gonzalez Villeos. The stabbing happened yesterday morning on Mercer Avenue in Wilmington. Both the suspect and the victim are from Venezuela. Today we learned the suspect is also under an ICE hold. That means he's waiting to be taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Yeah, they got a hold on him, but are they going to give him to him, or are they going to put him on the street anyways? Yeah. All right. Wall Street says Tyler McCain, a rancher from Wyoming, says the high prices of beef in grocery stores are a lie. We're all being extorted. Here we go.
If that beef was produced in Argentina and it was brought here on a boat, whether it was alive or already processed, and they take it out of the box that it came in from Argentina and they put it in the new box with the different label, that's a product of America. As the rules stand right now, when you look at the markets around the world, how they're being marketed to, and then you look at the products that we're producing, I know the numbers well enough. There's no way that a lot of that beef at the prices they're paying us right now is going into American stores. If you add up the amount that it would take to buy that entire animal back at what they have at retail prices in the supermarket, there's no way they bought that from me. I'm very interested to see how the mandatory cool labeling plays out. I'm suspicious that there may be some alternative motives, because for the last several years, that's all we've heard is, well, it'll cause the price of beef to go too high. And if you look at any other produce in the market, I can go into Riverton, Wyoming, and I can see where my watermelon was grown. So I think that's where American beef producers just want to have that presented. So I think it'll be interesting to see if consumers respond to this idea that now they will know next year that when they see a product of USA, it was born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States.
Yeah, born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States. I think that's something that we all need to see, and that they need to avoid giving any antibiotics or anything like that to the animals. Period. Yeah, I'm not going to go into him. Let's go into him, though. Wall Street Babe says, Tucker Carlson, what happened to all the Jeffrey Epstein evidence? You guys will be surprised when you hear that.
Only Epstein. What happened to all the evidence? Epstein gets arrested. They charged him for paying for massages in his New York apartment. That's all they charged him for. So why did they only charge him for that? Well, there's a reason. He had a place in New Mexico. He had his island. He had his place in Paris. He had another place, I think, in West Palm Beach. And if they had charged him for trafficking, the FBI would have had to simultaneously raid every property under a Mann Act. Instead, they arrested him. They searched the New York property. What was happening in the island? We don't know. What happened to the island? We don't know, because the FBI said we can't search it. So they left all these properties unattended, and then that's when the mop-up operation commenced, and they got whatever compromising CDs and DVRs and other information. And so Epstein gets charged with the lowest possible conduct that he ever could have been charged with. All their properties were left unattended, so mop-up teams went in there, took whatever they needed to take out there, and then Epstein commits suicide. It's the end of the story. What's to talk about? It's all gone now. It's like the ending of The Usual Suspects. It's like he never existed.
Yep. It'll come around, though. It'll come around. All right. People that don't understand that General Flynn gave all the signs he was running his own PSYOP with a network we call the Circle of Jerks, all backing up whatever he says. Ariel did a tremendous job putting a spotlight on this. Reaching the newly awakened people is really, really important. And Script Keeper's right. Good information is good information. So let's read what Ariel had to say. Do not believe a word coming out of his mouth. And he's talking about General Flynn. For simple fact that he is using mainstream media as a reference, which is controlled by the CIA, should tell you all you need to know. Michael Flynn does not want Venezuela in the BRICS nation. The Nazis cannot afford to have Nicolas Maduro leaving third world status to become a first world country. Michael Flynn is scared of Donald Trump's administration without him being in it to control certain agencies from investigating him. This is why he's throwing everything at the wall. He wanted to become president himself, but settled for VP until there was a plausible scenario to remove Donald Trump, where they couldn't trace the shooter back to the FBI or CIA MK Ultra programs that Mike Flynn is connected to and knows all about. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn served as the Assistant Chief of Staff G2, 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Bragg. The Delta forces are stationed here and are programmed and trained here. MJTF, Multi-Jurisdictional Task Force troops, the BATF, and other federal agencies train in kicking in civilian doors and martial law type tactics. Fort Bragg is headquarters for the mind-controlled Delta Force. Fort Bragg is a major satanic center in the military. Green Lives Matter says, General Flynn says that contesting the Venezuelan elections could have the major implications for America because some of our voting systems actually began in Venezuela and our CIA has a long-time relationship with them. Yeah, let's take a listen to what Mike Flynn had to say.
So what we're seeing in Venezuela and why, and I haven't paid attention to it for the last probably 7 or 8 hours, but it still appears like there's going to be a contest in Venezuela, and that contest could turn into a revolution, physical revolution. Military forces against military forces, people against people, and basically people that are fighting for freedom over the communist regime of Maduro. And if the outcome turns on the communists and it becomes this new president, this woman down there who seems to be very strong, very courageous, and good for her, the consequences of that have great consequences, have huge consequences for the United States of America. Because in Venezuela, one of the things that where our voting systems, okay? So why does this tie into the United States? Our voting systems and voting systems around the world, many of them actually began in Venezuela. They were created in Venezuela. And our CIA has a long-time relationship with some of these organizations. So what I know is that if this woman wins and gets into the presidency, the ability for her to expose what has been happening inside of communist Venezuela in terms of corruption that has impacted the rest of the world is going to be mind-blowing. It'll be explosive. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. And this is why it's interesting. I mean, the administration came out, the U.S. administration came out and said it gave a blurb about, hey, we got to stand for freedom and, we're joining together. No, these people, they don't want this woman to win. I'm telling you, they don't want this woman to win because if she wins, then this is another one of these things, another signal, another indicator for the United States of America and the people of our country to then say, look, we need to stand our ground for freedom. We can't have this communist takeover of the United States of America. And that's why I don't even use the term Democrat or Democratic anymore, Joe, or Pags. I mean, I just don't. I don't do it because the party that is on the left is a communist socialist party that has taken control of the reins of government, and they're tied in with these globalists, and these globalists, they want control and power over the United States and the resources of the United States, like it or not. And I wish that more media actually talked about it, but many conservative media don't even talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Flynn, I don't trust you. You know. Yeah. So it's like, anytime that Michael Flynn is agreeing with the State Department, who said Joe Biden won, you have been right the entire time to say that the Flynn network is the deep state. Always do the opposite of mainstream media. Here you see Mike Flynn going along with them, the same media that called Donald Trump a dictator. Then we have Green Lives Matter says, how do you explain Trump's often public feud with Maduro for basically his entire first term? I researched it extensively the other day, and he did everything in his power to remove him, but I could be wrong. It'll be interesting to see Trump's administration, too, where I suspect Flynn will play a major role. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So, very interesting. Back to it. I didn't realize I clicked that many times. Wow. All right. To anyone trying to criticize Trump for going after Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, then I have some news for you. Kemp is as corrupt as it gets. George put this out. A part of being a regular attendee at the WEF, he also has a history of receiving illegally laundered money to his campaign. According to official campaign finance data, some of Kemp's donations appear to come from the same scheme utilized by Act Blue to launder money into Democrat campaigns. Professional researcher discovered that one Kemp donor from New Jersey allegedly gave him 3,960 times in 2022, totaling over $25,000. The only problem, Dave Kizak, the New Jersey man, is just a regular working class man making about $50,000 a year. There's no way he donated 25 grand to Brian Kemp, of all people. When we exposed Kemp, they altered the state data to hide the 12K plus anonymous campaign finance contributions illegal. Brian Kemp is a criminal for this. And it goes on to show the actual donations, and then David Kizak's New Jersey voter registration, and then how many contributions did he make according to the FEC. It's got his, all the info there. And then Dave and the rest of Kemp's Smurfs share interesting patterns of contributions. Yeah. So many things. Kemp is a traitor. This one is interesting. 10 days ago, Hadassah Feinberg filed a private criminal complaint at Butler, PA District Attorney's Office, alleging charges against current VP Kamala Harris nominee and current Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro for the murder of Corey Comptoir and attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Here we go.
My name is Hadassah Feinberg, and I hereby affirm that I filed a private criminal complaint naming Joshua Shapiro, aka Governor Joshua Shapiro, in the state of Pennsylvania as a defendant for the attempted assassination against former President Donald J. Trump. I, Hadassah Feinberg, aka Affiant, hereby charge Governor Joshua Shapiro in his personal, individual, and official capacity with murder and attempted murder. Governor Joshua Shapiro conspired with multiple parties to act on the political scheme and carry out the attempted assassination of former President Donald J. Trump by and through an abuse of power, both directly and indirectly, in the state of Pennsylvania. Governor Joshua Shapiro, through the executive branch, enforced, conspired, and carried out the attempted assassination on former President Donald J. Trump on July 13th, 2024, because he knew that President Joseph R. Biden would be an unsuccessful presidential Democratic nominee running against former President Donald J. Trump. In the weeks leading up to the Trump rally, President Joseph R. Biden made frequent visits to Governor Joshua Shapiro to discuss the obstacle faced by the Democratic Party. Governor Joshua Shapiro organized, schemed, and conspired with or without President Joseph R. Biden the premeditated plan to carry out the attempted assassination against former President Donald J. Trump. Governor Joshua Shapiro is guilty and liable for the attempted assassination, along with crimes against the Affian's family, Greenberg family, Peterson family, Daniel Harris, Jared Tutko, Iris Mummert, Yvonne Worski-Werman, Elena Belogolowski, Smith children, Matt Kanapesky, Mindy Kell, Rajette Harris, and hundreds of victims across the state of Pennsylvania who exposed public corruption in the state of Pennsylvania. Governor Joshua Shapiro abused his power as governor to conspire with local and state law enforcement officials and has actively failed to protect hundreds of victims across the state, as referenced in the RICO lawsuit lodged in the Maryland District Court on July 3rd, 2024, both named and unnamed C. Feinberg versus Cintron, U.S. District Court, Maryland 1:24-CV-01957. Governor Joshua Shapiro failed to ensure that the Pennsylvania State Police, under his supervision, would clear the event prior to the rally and intentionally failed to ensure the safety of the former President Donald J. Trump due to his modus operandi with the assistance of unnamed local and state law enforcement officials and monetary donors, including George Soros, BlackRock, President Joseph R. Biden, both intentionally and unintentionally. Governor Shapiro has been a suspect and perpetrator named in multiple private investigations and lawsuits for years for state and federal crimes, and he has actively engaged in public corruption with the Philadelphia FBI office to obstruct investigations for the crimes reported. There are hundreds of reports at the FBI office against Governor Joshua Shapiro that have never been investigated, and this affiant is a primary witness. Governor Joshua Shapiro, while acting by and through his modus operandi, has engaged in proliferated actions to climb the political ladder to Vice President of the United States of America and or President of the United States of America, while engaging in multiple crimes and suppressing witness testimony from hundreds of innocent victims whose lives have been destroyed by his directives, retaliation, and executive administration. Governor Joshua Shapiro has utilized the media, namely Penn Live and ABC News, to promote his political position and disregard the crimes as evidence before the public. He has committed tax fraud for years in his position as commissioner, attorney general, and governor for the state of Pennsylvania. He has concealed murders, endangered children, and now engaged in a heinous crime under his authority and supervision. Governor Joshua Shapiro, in his abuse of power, has manipulated and willingly engaged in state and federal crimes for more than 10 years against the Commonwealth citizens and other officials who expose his criminal acts. I am hereby alleging that this private criminal complaint against Governor Joshua Shapiro meets the criteria of a preponderance of the evidence, since it is more likely true than not that Governor Joshua Shapiro acted through his modus operandi to climb the political ladder, influenced and caused the outcome of the attempted assassination on July 13th, 2024, in Butler, Pennsylvania, both directly and indirectly against former President Donald J. Trump, and should be charged accordingly with criminal homicide pursuant to 18 PA Constitutional Statute 25 for the senseless death of Corey Comparator, and criminal attempt pursuant to 18 PA Constitutional Statute 901 for an attempted assassination against a former president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. He should be charged with any additional criminal charges the district attorney deems fit, including criminal solicitation and criminal conspiracy pursuant to 18 PA Constitutional Statute 902 and Statute 903, and should be removed from office immediately. On July 5th, 2024, a letter to former President Donald J. Trump and President Joseph R. Biden was mailed regarding Shapiro's crimes and the public corruption across the state of Pennsylvania. The letter was mailed by the affiant due to the severity of the crimes being committed vastly across the state by officials under Governor Joshua Shapiro and Governor Joshua Shapiro. On July 13th, 2024, this affiant contacted the Secret Service to provide a tip. On July 15th, 2024 through July 23rd, 2024, this affiant communicated with Secret Service agent John Donahue and provided numerous documentations relating to the crimes committed by Governor Joshua Shapiro and the Philadelphia FBI's involvement in covering up the crimes of Governor Joshua Shapiro against numerous victims. On March 9th, 2024, Supervisory Special Agent Kenneth Keller advised this affiant through email that he contacted the FBI Philadelphia personnel, FBI Victim Services, and management at the Washington field office, and that they advised him to direct the affiant to Philadelphia FBI. Agent Kenneth Keller informed this affiant that the crimes being reported are not occurring in his jurisdiction and that he has no jurisdiction to assist Pennsylvania victims. He advised the affiant to contact the Department of Justice, who has made no contact with the affiant regarding hundreds of reports from victims across the state of Pennsylvania. I am requesting that additional charges be brought against Pennsylvania Governor Joshua Shapiro for crimes committed against innocent victims listed herein, and charges shall be brought against any other individuals, known or unknown, who conspired with Governor Joshua Shapiro to commit any state or federal crimes in Pennsylvania over the last 13 years. Thank you.
Very interesting. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. All right, Darren Grimes says, make no mistake about it, this is unprecedented. The national flag of Ireland flying alongside the Ulster banner, unified in a more important fight, as seen by those from both Dublin and Belfast. We are living through a moment that will be remembered as the beginning of something seismic. People coming together. People have said enough is enough. They're done with it. And the fact that you can get the Protestants and the Catholics working together in order to defeat something means that there's the possibility that you can see them working towards getting many other things kiboshed as well. Yep. The Irish are agreeing. You know the world is fucked if the Irish get along. You know it. It's like the Italians. Okay, if the Italians ever got along, you know, their country would be fucked too, you know, because everybody would see, the big difference, you know. So I'm just saying, you know, just something to think about, you know. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Donald Trump lives. A man was touched by God, flaws and all. And it usually happens that way, doesn't it? For all you Christians out there. It usually happens that way in the Bible, where the flawed amongst us are chosen for a greater path and a greater purpose. They're chosen to do a job, to do something that God needs them to do, that God sees only fit for them to do. So flaws and all, Donald J. Trump was touched by God. And the only way you can explain a man having 3 bullets miss his head by millimeters is an act of God, a miracle. Now, right away, you're anti-Christian. And first of all, before I even go there, everything that proceeded afterward, everything that has happened in the days after Donald Trump's miracle were intended to distract you from that miracle. And that includes Joe Biden, and that includes Kamala Harris, and that includes the Olympics and the anti-Christian ceremonies that are taking place there in Paris. All of it is intended to distract you from that miracle. 3 bullets miss a man's head by millimeters. A miracle. And immediately, I saw one of the strangest things I think I ever have witnessed in my 33 years of being alive. There was this coordinated and almost simultaneous release of propaganda and misinformation that started to call the Donald Trump failed assassination a hoax. It was staged. And you know, when you say it was a miracle and God put his hand on Donald Trump, which he did, the response from some of your social media trolls was, well, then why didn't God save the man that was killed in the crowd behind him? And then some other people from that same cohort, or let's say they probably will vote the same way, or they have the same distaste for Donald Trump, and they have the same distaste for all of you out there who believe in having a country, or let's say more simple things like there are men and there are women. All of those people in that cohort, they end up voting pretty much the same way. And either they said that that God, that it wasn't a miracle and God wasn't with the man who ended up being killed in the crowd behind Donald Trump, or they'll just come out and say that it was the whole thing was staged. See, but you can't really have it both ways, huh? I mean, the two don't really mix. They don't square. If you're going to say that God, which you don't understand Christianity, there are plenty of people who died in the Bible, and God was active in the situation. For example, the great story of Moses and the Exodus from Egypt. There were plenty of people who died in that conflict, in that story. Some got out. Some never made it to Israel. Some were swallowed by the desert. Okay? So you don't have a good read of Christianity, which is why I don't let people who don't believe in God or have faith in God, or at least have any understanding of the scripture, question me about my Christian and morals, my Christian ethics and morals, because they're doing it to be flippant and dismissive. They're doing it to mock God. They're doing it to mock the Bible. They're doing it to mock Christ. And I just won't really participate in it. You tell those people to shut up. You don't got to play nice with them. No more niceties. Donald Trump was touched by God. It was a miracle. The man who was behind him that died was an unfortunate and tragic outcome of that day. And may God have mercy on his soul, and may he enter the kingdom of heaven. He was a hero. And if you know anything about the Bible, and if you know anything about Christian scripture, Hebrew scripture, you'll know that God tends to be favorable to those who are heroic in their final moments. That was the thief up on the cross. The thief who had led a life of sin. Yet in his final moments, as all of the crowd who weighed in against Christ, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That thief had been touched, had been inspired to the path of faith in his final moments. And it tells us that he ascended into heaven with Christ. That he was welcomed into the kingdom of heaven. So, flaws and all, Donald Trump was touched by God, and all the anti-Christian culture in our modern world is now weighed against him. In a way, he may not even understand. How could he? I mean, we're talking about forces that are well beyond us, powers and principalities. And if ever you were on the fence about Donald J. Trump, if ever you had your doubts, if ever you thought, I don't like him, I don't know if I can vote for him, God is not to be mocked. Every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. When you see a miracle, it's best that you testify to the miraculous event that you witnessed. You bear witness. If you're ever on the fence about Donald Trump, you shouldn't be now. A very clear line has been drawn in the sand. There are those who understand what they witnessed, what they saw, and there are those who will deny Christ until the final moments. So, in the days after, Joe Biden miraculously gets sick, and I say miraculously in that way to be tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah. I'm going to speak on that here real quick, too. Cheryl Jones didn't get to see my reply because my text or what I type into chat doesn't go there. She says, saw you had to take Dave's video down to close over the target. Hope they don't get you into too much trouble. Well, I'm actually going to show you what he did. And then I'm going to tell you what I warned him of ahead of time, days ago. Actually, when the thing about the Last Supper came out, and all that stuff. So I'm gonna show you what they did. So I'm gonna go here to manage the videos, and I'm gonna show you what happened, and I'm gonna show you why. And say that he basically did it to himself. So, that 5 hours and 4 minutes of, 5 hours of great content was removed by YouTube, copyright, blocked. And let's take a look at the details. Well, what did he do? He showed clips from the Olympics. I've told him multiple times, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. The Olympics is going after anybody posting anything of their content. Now, if it had been a regular local station kind of thing, news report or something like that, you could have gotten away with fair use. Okay. But under this condition, you can't. I can't fight it. There's nothing I can do. It's not a strike on me, though. It just means that this video on YouTube will never get seen beyond the 1,444 views that it has gotten. And I told him when the story dropped about the scene of the Last Supper. I told him that there were announcements on X and other platforms. Do not show anything to do with the Olympics because the Olympics people are getting it all scrubbed. So if you want to click videos and save videos, and for a later date when the Olympics goes back to being a world sports organization instead of being a political narrative hack, then by all means do that, but never forget where where they came from, and the fact that you know it's like this, when you push a narrative like this, you have to expect people to react, and when people react, then those same companies turn around and they do whatever they can in order to try and save face. Okay, and a lot of that's got to do with is the people who buy the advertising. Okay, have a very large control. The fact that C Spire pulled out of sponsorship for the Olympics, millions upon millions of dollars. I'm not even sure what the total was, but but the fact of the matter is, you were warned about it, you were told about it. Don't talk medical, and don't show any. You can talk about the Olympics, you just can't show anything from the Olympics. It's just copyright, so it's blocked, and unfortunately it will not allow me to trim this one. That's how I got his last video out. Back up was because of the fact that I was able to trim, but this does not give me the option to trim it out of the video. So the select option only goes to delete the entire video. Yeah, I'm not going to do that, because eventually someday that copyright's going to end up going away, and we'll be able to put that back up. But I understand you think it's newsworthy that somebody's wanker is what costs them a gold medal at the Olympics, because that's basically what he showed, was that a dude's wanker cost him the pole vaulting championship. And I'm not going to show it to you guys. I'm not going to show it to you. So you'll just have to look it up. Just type in Olympian's penis blocks gold medal. Because that's what happened. Yeah, it's still on Rumble, and it's still on X, but it just won't be on YouTube or Facebook, because they'll make it go away. Both of those platforms, both of them give money to these games. Yep, it's no matter how funny it is, the fact of the matter is when you put yourself in that position, then now we're in a position where I've had to clip certain things out of 4 or 5 hour long podcasts. I was able to do it for like 4 or 5 different ones. But this one I can't even do it to now. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's not a strike or anything. So it's just it's just blocked. Nobody will ever see it again, unless they go to Rumble or to someplace else. So I haven't spoken with him, but I will. I'll let him know when I do speak. I'll probably talk to him later on this afternoon. And this is the thing: is we've got to be cautious when if we want to be able to maintain greeting newcomers here on YouTube and Facebook and leading them towards Rumble and X and other platforms, and getting them as much truth as possible, then we sometimes we have to tailor our content, or just drop that channel for the time being and post it to the other channels. And they're not behind paywalls. They're just on another platform where you can get away with saying anything, and not be held accountable for it. So, all right. Let's see. Matt Lomier. Here we go.
I was in command as a lieutenant colonel. I was fired from my command, but I was still a lieutenant colonel in the military and in the Space Force. But that lasted for about 3 months. There was an ongoing investigation to determine if I had acted in some way that was unauthorized, illegal, unethical, immoral, and I hadn't. I hadn't at all, and I wasn't found guilty of anything. But at the time, they'd wrecked my reputation as a leader, so I voluntarily separated without my pension because it was either stay in and keep your mouth shut about what's going on, or get out and keep using your voice to try and inform people about the woke revolution that's taking over the military. And so I chose to get out and do that.
Yeah. Do I trust the woke revolution to protect my best interest and protect my country? Do I really need to answer that? Well, I'm going to. I'm going to give it a big fuck no. I don't. All right. Recall Katie Hobbs puts out bombshell WikiLeaks Hunter emails tie Kamala Harris to Pizzagate via sister. Maya Harris, Kamala's sister, was a major pizza party speaker for John Podesta and James Elefantis of Comet Ping Pong. Oh boy. And here you go. Yeah. And that's her sister. I wonder if she's black too. It's like, yeah, just saying. All right. Sir Oliver Pollock says they will get caught red-handed. Here we go.
Gateway pundit Jim Hoft with a new, truly breaking news story having to do with voter fraud, as we aptly named it, as we were discussing before the show. All these left-wing groups that are get out the vote organizations. It's not get out the vote. It is get out the fraud. You guys have an update to a story that you had broke on War Room a few months ago about GBI strategies. It was kind of focused in Michigan, but you are now learning that this fraudulent voter registration mill was operating in multiple states, multiple cities, much more than you guys had previously known. Can you give a little bit of background for those who are not familiar with the story, but what this new exclusive dropping today reveals?
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, this is still growing, this story. It's developing. We're finding this similar groups as GBI strategies have been operating in several states. So it wasn't just GBI. When we first started reporting on GBI strategies, we had a report from the state police from Michigan, and they had been looking at this this group that's funded by Democrats, $500,000 by Joe Biden and Senator Gary Peters in 2020. That's quite a bit of money that they were throwing into this group, and we found out then that they had faked a lot of registrations. And when I say a lot, we're talking thousands that were turned into county clerks around and city clerks around the state of Michigan. We found that they were the GBI offices were in several of the majority Black communities in the state. They were filling out these registrations. They were turning them into the clerks. They were even mailing stacks of registrations to the clerks. One clerk in Muskegon, as you may recall, this is on the western side of Michigan, she got a stack of 8,000 to 10,000 in one day of these registrations. In a community that has 30,000 eligible voters, she gets 8,000 to 10,000 registrations. Of course, this raised a red flag. She communicated with the local police, who contacted the state police, who then contacted the Attorney General's office, Dana Nessel, and she eventually contacted the FBI. They said they were investigating this situation in Michigan with GBI strategies, but nothing has ever developed on it. And that was nearly 4 years ago now. What we found recently was, originally we had this police report from the state police, Natalie, that was heavily redacted. And so it was hard, of course, to make out names and different facts. But we do have a copy now, and Patty McMurray from Gateway Pundit is leading this. She has a copy of the unredacted police report, and what we're finding are a lot of new nuggets to report. One is that originally, what was a very strange situation was that one of the offices in Michigan, they found some big guns with silencers that were kept in the office. And so they contacted the police, and the secretary, or the Dana Nessel, the attorney general, the media, and the Washington Post wrote a hit post on Gateway Pundit about this. They all said that these guns belong to the landlord. Well, we can confirm on your program today, Natalie, that that's not true. The guns belong to Gary Bell. He's the one who was heading up the GBI Strategies operation in Michigan and several other states. And we know that now because he had said that during a phone call that was redacted before, but now we have the information where he admits that those guns were his. Now, what they were doing in that office, anyone knows. We don't know that. It seems a bit odd that a voter registration organization would keep these guns and silencers in their offices in the Detroit area. Let me add one thing, Natalie, and what we also found out is that there are several states where there is GBI Strategies operations. We can confirm in Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Washington, D.C. These are several of the states where GBI Strategies was operating in 2020. It wasn't just Michigan. It was numerous other states. We also believe that GBI Strategies was changing its name to operate in some of these states because Gary Bell himself had said that he was operating in 25 states in all of the battleground states in 2020. And we believe that some of those operations had a different name, or they changed their name so that they wouldn't be identified if someone caught on to them.
So I want to connect this to something that we were discussing on yesterday's show with Richard Barris of the People's Pundit. It's basically this new narrative that I've seen developing pretty recently. CNN, MSNBC, they continue to vamp on and on and on about how turnout this year, this election, is going to be so astronomically high. And I think when you look back to the alleged, 83 million votes that Joe Biden, he never says that number anymore. But it is an interesting narrative, I think, in the context of what you're talking about, right? These like artificially astroturfed voter registrations, when they're trying to, I think, predictively program the American people to think that the turnout for this election is going to be atypically high. Now, sure, that may be because there is actually genuine, eagerness and excitement to vote for probably Donald Trump. But I also see a more nefarious side to that, which I think interplays quite nicely with the story that you're talking about. So in terms of the threat that GBI Strategies and these, similar kind of shadowy, shady organizations that, like you alluded to, they always like to rebrand, but it's the same individuals behind it. Where are they operating ahead of the 2024 election?
I'm just taking a guess, but I would assume they're everywhere. I truly believe they're everywhere. I think this is the key to the Democrat winning an election. We know in 2020, Natalie, we tracked this at Gateway Pundit. Joe Biden had like 20, 30 people who would come out to see him. There was no energy there. Even when they said he won the election, they had to do it in a parking lot with people sitting in their cars, and there was only about 50 cars there. There was no energy for that man. They came out 9 months later and said that the voters for Joe Biden, we found who they were, because Trump had gained in blacks, Hispanics, women, Jews, every category. Trump had picked up more voters. And they said finally after 9 months, oh, well, these are poor white voters in the rural areas. Complete garbage. This is the crap they're feeding us. And I believe that as we continue to investigate this, and tomorrow we have a huge piece coming out on Ohio and what's happening there. And Patty McMurray's working on it tonight, she promises me. But they're doing this in so many states, and I think this is the key to the Democrat victory. There is no energy for their Marxism. There is no energy for the open borders. There's no energy for transing kids and cutting off their genitals. It's just not there. So what are they doing? They're manufacturing, in my opinion, this is Jim Hoft, in my opinion, they are manufacturing millions of votes by using millions of manufactured registrations. And they captured some in Ohio recently. We're going to report on that tomorrow. But you're exactly right. That's how I believe, and I think, you know, I just have so much admiration for Steve Bannon. My prayers are with him every day. But he's been consistent saying it was a stolen election. I think we're getting closer and closer to understanding the actual lawlessness of this. As you know, one important fact, Natalie, when you're faking registrations, and this one woman who they interviewed in Michigan with GBI Strategies, she admitted to 1,000 different registrations that were fraudulent. Each one of those registrations is a crime. We need to have Republicans out there who are willing to pressure local authorities to press charges against these people. It's the only way it's going to stop. And we have a lot of work to do between now and the next 95 days before the election to make sure that they're not doing this and they're not going to steal. But I agree with you 100%. The fact that the media now, of course, appears to be in on this, thinking that people are going to run out for Kamala Harris. No, it's not going to happen. They're just trying to, you know, get the playing field, people used to this, hearing this nonsense, just like they did last time.
Well, we focused so much attention on this show in terms of the financing of the Democratic Party, what is the sort of, you know, plug and play system in terms of it didn't really matter who the candidate was. But I think you can make the same critique that these get out the vote, get out the fraud operations, these artificially inflated voter registration is sort of a symptom of that bigger plug and play system where they don't actually have to have a likable candidate, or frankly, a candidate that's even breathing in with a pulse, because it's not actually about them, right? It's about the electioneering, the politicking, and the ballot harvesting that's going on the side. But to your point about how Republicans need to step up, when you guys are breaking these stories, you know, why is it Jim Hoft? Why is it Patty McMurray at the Gateway Pundit? Why is it you guys that are having to do this research? Are there any, you know, people coming in on the cavalry, whether it's Congress, Senate, that are here to help you, or is it just you guys?
Well, you know, we did hear that the Congress was investigating this. One of the committees in Congress, they were asking for a lot of our information, but we just haven't heard back from them. And so we don't know where they are.
You haven't heard back from them? Walk the audience through that.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty big story, because they've been looking at this for several months, and Patty's having a hard time contacting her friend, who is actually a congresswoman. So, but you're right. If we don't do anything, if we sit on our hands and we're too afraid to, you know, stand up and say this is lawlessness, then we're going to lose. And I hope your audience understands that. We're going to lose if we don't stand up now and fight this fraud. And it is fraud. You can't fake registrations. You can't fake one. You can't fake 100. You can't fake 1,000 registrations. You certainly can't fake tens of thousands of registrations. And I believe we're looking at an astronomical number right now.
So this story that's coming out tomorrow, if people want to read it, get ahead of it, break it down for us one more time, but where can they go to follow you and make sure they read the story tomorrow? We'll have you on next week, but in the meantime.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, I believe this is going to be really big, because it just busts it wide open, and it shows you that there's other groups. We're going to talk about one of these other groups tomorrow. It's in Ohio. There was some developments that happened this past week. We're going to report on that tomorrow at the Gateway Pundit. And we also know of two other groups that we haven't reported on yet, too, that we believe are involved in this same type of manufacturing of ballot registrations. So tune into the Gateway Pundit tomorrow morning, and I'm going to make sure Patty stays up all night to make sure to be certain that report gets out, and we will have it up in the morning.
Jim Hoft, thank you for your service to this country and breaking all these stories, and thank you for joining us here in the War Room.
Thank you, Natalie.
All right. Yeah. Interesting, huh? Yeah. Actually, I didn't see anything wrong with your comment whatsoever. And for those of you that missed it, what she said was that the clerk in my tiny rural grocery store I visit is transitioning, sickening just watching it happen. Yeah, that's the thing, is that, you know, people are exposed to what these people are doing to themselves, and it's disappointing. It's reckless behavior, you know, um, you know, and and you affect those around you when you're doing that to yourself. You do. You affect family. You affect friends, people that you see, regularly. And if it's a local grocery store in a rural town, everybody knows everybody's business. You know, and it's not good. Here we go. Let's listen to this brother.
I have a legit question for the entire Democratic Party. I have a legit question for the pundits, for the mainstream media and news, for the propagandists. Like, how can you say you condemn political violence when all you push out is hateful political rhetoric? How? Like, how can you say you condemn political violence when all you push out is hateful political rhetoric like Trump is Hitler? Trump is a threat to democracy. Trump is going to take women's rights away. Trump is going to put you back in chains. Like, Trump supporters are the biggest threat to our democracy. How can you say you condemn political violence when pushing out hateful political rhetoric? That is double think, that is double speak, that's gaslighting. I have a legit question for the entire Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I have a legit question for
Quick and easy. Yep. So scenes never seen before, that's for sure. These two flags together, they're extraordinary. Here they are. Marching on the streets in Ireland. Must have been a really windy day. But yeah. All right, here it goes.
If you think Jeffrey Epstein's island was bad, wait until you hear about the Seventh-day Adventist Church's island. Everyone's heard of the Pitcairn Islands because of mutiny on the Bounty. Adventists are extremely proud of the fact that they converted all of the islanders, and it's just a few dozen islanders at this point, but they were converted many generations ago to Adventism. So the entire population has been Adventist for a very long time. There was an enormous lawsuit about 20-something years ago. There is an absolutely rampant, awful epidemic of child.
All right. Well, I got to go into this. Amy, I live in a rural community, and everybody here knows everybody's business. They know when you got packages delivered. They know when the mail lady comes. They know when you get a water delivery, when you get a food delivery. They know everything. If you have a girl come over, a couple of days later, somebody's making a comment. So who's that girl out at your farm? Things like that. Believe me, it's real. Now, where was I?
If you think Jeffrey Epstein's island was bad, wait until you hear about the Seventh-day Adventist Church's island. Everyone's heard of the Pitcairn Islands because of mutiny on the Bounty. Adventists are extremely proud of the fact that they converted all of the islanders, and it's just a few dozen islanders at this point, but they were converted many generations ago to Adventism. So the entire population has been Adventist for a very long time. There was an enormous lawsuit about 20-something years ago. There is an absolutely rampant, awful epidemic of child schmex abuse, trafficking, pornography. Every single male on that island was involved. The British government, so this is why Adventists screech and scream at me about, why are you so upset about the church? Because they do not take responsibility for the abuses within their system. This whole legal, you have to look it up. I just can't even tell you how awful it was. Legal suit against the British government who colonized those islands. Not a single word from the Adventists taking responsibility for all of their members that were involved. There's a huge Vanity Fair article about it, mentions Adventists once or twice, nothing about the church taking responsibility. If you think Jeffrey Epstein
So the reason that I was talking that I played that clip there from the Seventh Day Adventist is because the I actually have a friend who's a viewer in Connecticut, and that is tuned in and watching via X. Um, that I've known for many years. He owned a very large piece of property in the hills of Norwich, Connecticut. His wife was brutally murdered, and in her will, she gave all her possessions and the land to the church. Well, this is the thing: is that the guy had been reporting to both the Norwich Bulletin, the New London Day, the New Haven Register, the Hartford Courant, and smaller magazines that are basically small town, kind of like magazine newsletters that go out every few days. Um, uh, that about the Seventh Day Adventist Church, and about big things in regards to sexual abuse going on with a bunch of the children from that church. It's not just the Catholics that do it. You know, well, his wife was brutally murdered back in the late '80s, early '90s, and the church, because they wanted to combat the exposure that was going on with the church through the news outlets, tried to take his house away. Well, the thing that his wife neglected to state in her will, she planned on outliving her husband, and that basically everything that they owned was going to go to the church. The deed was never in her name. It was never a joint property. He owned the property for more than 20 years before she and he got married. And so he won the, he had to go to court and battle it and everything, and he won. But this just showing more exposure of the Seventh Day Adventist Church and their affiliation with organizations that have to do with human trafficking. And the thing is that most of the churches that are out there, all the big churches, it doesn't matter if you're Baptist, Lutheran, Catholic, or whatever. There's always at least one super mega church of that particular religion that is absolutely involved in this type of activity. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. It really is. And when it comes to these islands, people need to realize, why do people want a house on an island by itself? Because they don't want anybody getting in their business. More than likely, they're doing something that shouldn't be done. So they get these offshore islands that possibly do not fall or that fall under international waters instead of falling into a particular designated country or something like that, you know. So like the Virgin Islands is the U.S. Virgin Islands, as Puerto Rico is now a part of. I don't think Puerto Rico has been recognized as a state yet. But the island of Puerto Rico is under the dominion of the United States. Okay, most of these islands are either attached to countries that allow trafficking and still allow slavery. Okay, although it's pretty much banned worldwide now. You know, the fact of the matter is in these particular waters, they can get away with pretty much anything, right? You know, so I'm not going to go into that. It's old news. I'm proud to be an American, but we're tired. Here we go.
The American people are tired. We're tired of the propaganda and the division that's being cultivated by the media. Tired of being kept in a constant state of unease as we go further and further into 2024. We're tired of the lying and the cover-ups and the gaslighting and the manipulation that's being done by everybody. Every damn buddy. Everybody. Tired of the constant attacks that one side does over the other, and we're tired of the multi-line bills where only one of those lines gets a headline at the end of the day. GOP is stopping any legislation from going to the border. No, we're stopping the legislation from money going to Ukraine. Put that in the headlines, and we're tired. We don't want to pay for Ukraine's war anymore. We don't. Tired of being lectured by people in Hollywood who have not had a single hardship a single damn day in their whole life. Not their whole life. We're tired of them sitting on their talk shows and in their mansions and telling us how to think and what to think and how to vote, why we should vote. I'm tired of trusted news sources or the everything's a psyop people. I'm tired of both of those people. I'm so tired of both of those people. Tired of being told that I need to vote for somebody for cultural reasons and not for somebody because I don't want to go to war. These cultural things are going to matter when you're suiting and booting and getting the draft. None of it. None of it. He, hers, your she, hims, your transgender, your LGBTQ. None of it is going to matter. Okay, when you're sitting on a bus and you're headed over to some foreign country to fight a war that you had nothing to do with. You got nothing to do with it. None of that is going to matter if you have to take a big ass loan out of the bank just so you can buy groceries and put gas on your car. Your skin isn't gonna matter, okay? It isn't gonna matter when you're sitting in the dark because you couldn't afford to pay your light bill. When you're riding your bike or you're walking because you can't afford to pay your car note because the interest rates on used cars are so astronomically high. None of that is gonna matter. None of the cultural shit matters, okay? None of it matters. That shit matters if you can't afford the basics of living. And we're tired. I'm not going to debate people over it anymore. I'm tired of the constant baiting people into war and using the fear narrative and videos and atrocity propaganda to try and get us to support a war so that we can go and fight this war that we got nothing to do with, a war that we didn't fucking start, and a war that we are only paying for. That's it. That's the only thing we're doing is we're paying for it. I don't want war. I want peace. I want to be left the fuck alone. Be able to afford to fight with people on the internet about why men shouldn't be allowed in women's sports. Be able to do that without having to worry about where our next meal is going to come from or how we're going to be able to afford it or whether we should pay our car loan or our house loan or buy food. I want to be able to have conversations with people without having to worry about being stabbed or shot in the street. I want our country safe so that we can debate all of these other things openly, honestly, any platform we choose to do so without having to worry about censorship. I'm tired. We're tired. Americans are tired. Americans as a whole are just tired. We're not angry. We're not bitter. I've seen a lot of videos from people in other countries telling us how stupid and angry and bitter Americans are, but we're not. We're just tired. We've all woken up to the fact that we've been lied to for 100 or more years, and we're trying to figure it out, and we're just trying to get on the right side of it, and we're tired. And to explain it to other people who just don't see it, and we're just exhausted. It's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. It's emotionally exhausting. On top of that, you're fighting with platforms to try and get your information out, to get your videos to go, and to get your tweets to go, and it's exhausting. We could just quit. We could just walk away. We could just let you have it. You want Kamala to come in? You didn't elect her. You didn't choose her. You didn't vote for her, but you're okay with it because you just want her to get in there, and that's something. It's not democracy, but it's something. And I'm sure that's all going to work well and fine for you. But if it happens and this goes through, okay, and the next election cycle comes and maybe it's not somebody that you want. You thought about that? This sets precedence. It sets a precedence for the next upcoming election for you and your party, because I will raise holy fucking hell if it happens in mine. We won't make it another 4 years of this. We won't. Not as a country, not as a species, not as a people. The craziest thing about that is I'm not so worried about myself. I can take care of me and I can take care of mine, but I'm worried about you who are voting for this, all of you who are supporting this, all of you who are propping this up, this whole Kamala, whatever, this whole swamp thing. I'm worried about you because it's not going to end well for you.
Yeah. I'm tired too. Yep. All right. Byron wiped the floor with George Stephanopoulos. Here we go.
And you just repeated the slur again. If it doesn't matter, why do you all keep questioning her identity? She's always identified as a black woman. She is biracial. She has a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. She's always identified as both. Why are you questioning that?
Well, George, first of all, this is something that's actually a conversation throughout social media right now. There were a lot of people who are trying to figure this out. But again, that's a side issue, not the main issue. The main issue.
Sir, 1 second. You just did it. You just did it again.
Of the United States.
Why do you insist on
What,
questioning her racial identity?
You want me to talk?
I want you to answer my question.
George, now that you're done yelling at me, let me answer. He talked about it on the stage yesterday in Atlanta for what, 2 minutes? He spent more than 35, 40 minutes going after her record, talking about how radical of a senator that she was. She was the most liberal senator in the United States, in the United States Senate. That is a fact. He talked about the job that she did as vice president of the United States, a job, I will add, which has been a failure for the American people. I know you guys like to glom on to this that he talks about in jest or in a serious manner for about a minute or so, but what you do not cover is the litany of failures of Kamala Harris. That's what you're not covering, George.
So questioning somebody's racial identity for a couple minutes is okay?
George, I'm going to tell you again, he brought it up. AP is the one that wrote the headline when she first came in to the United States Senate. Didn't talk about her being black, talked about her being the first Indian American senator. AP brought that up. I mean, George, we could have this conversation for the entire segment, but none of this matters to the American people. What matters to the American people is, are we going to have the same policies of the Biden-Harris administration that has been destructive of the American people? Or are we going to have the policies of the Trump administration, which put America first, had low inflation, prosperous Americans, no matter your race, no matter your color, no matter your creed, and a foreign policy that kept America safe? Those are the facts that truly matter, because this issue is going to come and go. The lives of the American people is what's going to remain, and that's what matters more than anything else.
If it doesn't matter, I don't understand why you keep on repeating it, why the president keeps on repeating it, why those introducing the president yesterday
George,
keep on
actually,
repeating
I'm not
it.
the one who keeps repeating it. George, you're the one that's bringing it up now. That's
You've done
I
it,
understand why
sir.
you
You've done it.
up.
You've done it
Because,
3 times. Every single answer you gave me. Now let me finish, sir.
George,
Every single answer you gave, you repeated the slur.
Asked me, George. That's why I'm pushing back on you now. George, you asked me the question 3 times. I responded, but I'm
and
also
every
about
single
what
time you
truly
repeat the
matters in this
slur.
election.
That is exactly my point. You simply can't say that it's wrong.
George, so then what you're saying, and I want to get off this topic because it's not the only thing that's going on. But George, now you're saying that AP is the one that slurred Kamala Harris, because those are the facts. You can go to the internet and look at the clips, George, if you want to, or we can talk about this now. I prefer to talk about the future of our country, because the American people are struggling. The American people do need serious policy decisions to be made, and they need serious leadership on the world stage. Kamala Harris has not proven that she can do that. Donald J. Trump has proven that he can do that.
AP did not say that Harris is not black. She is biracial. She is Indian. She is black. You continue to repeat the fact that you continue to repeat the slur. I don't understand why you and the president do it, but it's clear you're not going to say that it's wrong. And you've now established that for our audience.
Oh, George, You're an idiot, George. You're an idiot. For a man who has acted in the position in which you have all these years, I am surprised that the American people have not realized just how stupid you really are. Yep. All right.
Kamala Harris knows what she needs to do. I was there. I gave her all of the policies that she needed, all of them, and she refused to implement them. She does not care about you. She does not care about the safety of this country. He does. This is the man for the presidency. Kamala Harris knows what she needs to do. I was there.
Yep. I was there. I told her what to do. This is how we stop this. And she didn't care. All right. The corporate media won't show you this, but I will. Watch as a Ukraine drone raid on residents of near border towns in Russia. They targeted an apartment with open windows because they knew they could cause the most damage inside the residential building. An elderly woman lost her life. This is what our tax dollars are funding. And you can clearly see the little drone. See it? Watch it fly right into a window. Yep. That's where our tax dollars are going. Doing that to innocent civilians that have nothing to do with anything. All right. That one's not even worth it. It's every single day, Libs of TikTok says, illegal from Mexico was just charged with murder in Tacoma, Washington. He was previously deported, but came back to the U.S. illegally. Reminder that Kamala Harris is the border czar. Yep. Let's go ahead and listen.
According to court papers, back on July 27th, the victim was driving around with a passenger when he got a call from Adrian Martinez, the suspect. Martinez wanted to meet up, so they pulled into a parking lot at an apartment complex. The passenger told police the victim and Martinez were talking, and as they walked away, he heard a gunshot. The court documents explain that Martinez then took off. He was arrested later on. Court documents say that he was extradited to Mexico back in 2016 and was not supposed to be in the United States. Martinez is charged with second-degree murder and unlawful possession of a firearm. Today, a judge set his bail at $2 million.
Well, at least his bail's up high enough that he can't afford to get out $2 million. I don't know any cartel that's going to pay that for an idiot. All right, this is put out by Johnny.
I got one for you today, America. I'm just now started working on this story out of East Tennessee. Check this out. A illegal immigrant went into the backyard of a family barbecue. They were having a party for their 4-year-old daughter in their backyard. The dude went in the backyard with a assault pew-pew, not American made, okay? It was brought from another country here. Are you sticking with me here? Okay. Well, he went there with the intentions of taking out that entire random family. Luckily, the father was able to catch what was going on immediately, tackle the guy and wrestle the pew-pew away from him and subdue him. Did not unalive him, hurt him, but subdued him. Used adequate force to subdue him, just shy of lethal. Okay? Fast forward a little bit. He, as in the homeowner, has now just been arrested for assault. The other guy has been let go on bond. That's not even the craziest part of this story. Do you want to know what the craziest part of this story is? When they're asking him why he did or attempted to do that, his answer was, I was told to do it before I left my country. This is what I was told to do. A lot of us were. This was our agreement to get out of jail. We come over here and do this.
I'm sure that there is going to be a lot more in regards to that story coming out soon. All right. Laverne Spicer says, Dear black folks, watch this video of your brown princess Kamala laughing about the time she put black working mothers in prison and put their kids into the foster care system. Then tell me in the comments why y'all would vote for this fucking trash.
Look,
There we go.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my reelection race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did.
I think it's rough because I asked the attendance officer, could she help me or give me some, make up some hours or whatever I can do. And she told me that she didn't care and hung up on me.
These districts that get federal funds are required to not only accommodate these parents so that their child can be in a traditional education, but to make reasonable adjustments in their policy, which can include attendance.
Now, the school district superintendent says this is an extreme case and action simply needed to be taken. Worst case scenario for Andrea Black, she could go to jail and her son could be put in foster care. She says she is desperately hoping that that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm telling you. All right, Brunson case update.
In a rare move within the U.S. Supreme Court, 3 justices recused themselves from a case related to the 2020 presidential election. Specifically, all 3 of the liberal justices on the court, Alina Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, as well as Ketanji Brown Jackson, all 3 of them recused themselves from a lawsuit that's currently on the Supreme Court docket. Although this whole thing requires a bit of backstory. All the way back in the year 2021, a man from Utah named Roland Bronson filed a massive lawsuit against hundreds of members of Congress. His central claim was that they violated their oath of office by not investigating allegations of election fraud prior to certifying the election winner. The list of respondents in the case was rather long. In fact, it was 388 names long. However, because Congresswoman Alma Adams from North Carolina appeared alphabetically first, the case was given the title Brunson versus Adams. Now, obviously, this is a rather unorthodox type of lawsuit where Mr. Brunson was making the central argument that, quote, avoiding an investigation of how Biden won the election is an act of treason and an act of levying war against the U.S. Constitution, which violated my unfettered right to vote in an honest and fair election, and as such, it wrongfully invalidated my vote. And ultimately, he was seeking the very lofty remedy of having Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, as well as the hundreds of members of Congress removed from office. Now, as you would imagine, the lawsuit was dismissed by both the lower courts as well as the appeals court. However, Mr. Brunson then appealed the case all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who back in January of last year likewise rejected his petition. Quote, in that appeal, the U.S. Supreme Court denied the petition for certiorari or review in an unsigned order on January 9th, 2023. No justices dissented. No reason was provided for the decision. At least 4 of the 9 justices have to vote to approve a petition of certiorari for it to advance to the oral argument stage. A month later, Mr. Brunson tried again to get a rehearing on the case, but that was also denied. Quote, the court denied a petition for rehearing on February 21st of 2023 in an unsigned order without providing a reason. No justices dissented. But as is becoming clear, Mr. Brunson does not appear to be the type of man to give up so easily. That's because after having his case denied by the appellate court as well as the U.S. Supreme Court, he went ahead and filed this new lawsuit right here called Brunson versus Sotomayor, wherein he accused the 3 liberal justices of the court of violating their judicial oath. Specifically, Mr. Brunson, he argued that, quote, the 3 justices violated their oath of office by giving aid and comfort to enemies of the Constitution, which is an act of treason, fraud, and a breach of contract. Meaning that he took the unusual step of suing the Supreme Court justices themselves for denying his earlier appeal. Now, the second lawsuit of his bounced around the system quite a bit, starting initially within the state's court system before moving on to the federal district court. Quote, the lawsuit began in state court, but the justices, as federal officers, had the case removed to the federal district court. The district court found that the state court lacked jurisdiction in the suit, holding that the official capacity claims against the justices were tantamount to claims against the United States, which enjoys sovereign immunity. Sovereign immunity is the legal doctrine that the government cannot be sued without its consent. Essentially, after the case was moved from the state circuit to the federal circuit, it was ultimately dismissed because the finding, at least, was that the Supreme Court justices enjoyed sovereign immunity. Mr. Brunson then, he appealed that decision to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, arguing that, quote, the doctrine of sovereign immunity runs afoul of the First Amendment's right to petition for redress of grievances. Now, the appellate court did not buy that argument, and back in February of this year, they ruled against Mr. Brunson. However, he's obviously a man on a mission, and as such, Mr. Brunson appealed again to the U.S. Supreme Court itself. Now, in this case, the Solicitor General of the United States, Ms. Elizabeth Prelogar, she functioned as essentially the attorney for the Supreme Court justices being sued. And on May 2nd of this year, she waived the U.S. government's right to respond to the petition, leaving the decision up to the Supreme Court justices themselves. And just yesterday, the following happened, quote, "In a rare move, all three liberal Supreme Court justices recused themselves, citing judicial disqualification mandates in the U.S. Code and the Code of Conduct for Justices of the Supreme Court of the United States, which was adopted in November of 2023. Essentially, they recused themselves from the case because the case involved them. However, despite that fact, the petition for the case to be taken up was still ultimately rejected. Quote, "The Supreme Court denied the petition for review in Brunson versus Sotomayor in an unsigned order without providing a reason. No justices dissented, but Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson did not participate in the ruling." And so with that, the case has met its end, at least for now. However, perhaps the most interesting aspect of this entire case is that the whole thing was done as a petitioner in pro se, meaning that Mr. Brunson did not have a lawyer, but rather he was representing the case himself, making it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, not once, but twice. If nothing else, these chaotic lawsuits, they do show that a single man can push the envelope quite far.
Interesting, huh? Yep. But they still have one more case. They had 3 cases that were brought to the Supreme Court. 2 of them have now been turned down, but one of them is still outstanding, and they're supposed to be taking care of it. Here we go.
In a rare move.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I went to my first Trump rally today here in Atlanta. By the time I got there, man, the doors opened at 1 o'clock. I think by 2 o'clock it was closed. It was already full. When I got there, it was already closed, man. I think that place hold like 6,000, 7,000 or something like that. It was already done, man. So I had to stand out there in that hot ass heat. It was hot. It was cool though, man. My first Trump rally was really, really cool. I got a little short video I'm gonna show you guys in a minute though. Yeah, they had Antifa out there making all that fucking noise. Palestine, free Palestine, just a whole lot of, they were making just a whole lot of noise, man, Antifa. But it was pretty cool though, man. I enjoyed it, man. I think Trump came out about 6 o'clock, man. Like, god damn. I waited 3 hours, man. It was hot as hell in that sun, Atlanta sun. That shit was hot. I couldn't take what I was to Trump. Trump, I gotta go, brother. This damn heat was fucking me up out there. But anyway, man, it was cool though, man. Check a little video, man. I took a lot of video, but I'm gonna show one little piece though, yeah. It was my first Trump rally. Everybody was real nice. It was cool, laughing, having fun though, man. It was pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, right. It was at least 10 or 15,000 people on the outside. It probably was more, but I'm just at least 10 or 15,000 outside. Just standing around, man, looking at they had the Jumbotron, whatever, the big the TV monitor, whatever, watching the monitor from the outside, at least 10 or 15,000. And they did not have no booty shaking. They didn't have to trick nobody to join. They had to go get the homeless people to come into the place. It was straight up for Trump, period.
First Trump rally, the state has gone to hell. The place was full. They stopped letting people in like an hour after it opened. So it's like maybe, I don't know. She was the one that started it. 15,000 people outside. Attorney General, way more people outside than inside. Way more. But guess what? He did not have there was no woman there shaking her ass. With no twerking going on either. This was straight up love. Look at this right here, man. To help spring child predators and dangerous criminals out of prison all over the state. Enduring the left-wing riots in 2020 saw that she urged her followers to donate to bail rapists and murderers out of jail while saying that the violent...
Yeah. I like seeing them having good experiences and sharing that, you know, with everybody because, you know, it's just a good way to go. Garrett, are you in chat? Garrett, I have something to show you. I have something to show you. I don't generally talk about wrestling. I used to be a big wrestling fan. I was. But The wild world we live in, says Shannon Crawford. Yeah, Montez Ford freezes in front of WWE camera man Rico. Watch closely.
Signed memorabilia, exclusive items, and so much more, all at the Rec Room in downtown Toronto. Open through Sunday.
It's called a robot malfunction. It's a different angle of it. Cameraman tries to get him operating. Then the handler is going to come around and he's going to try and get him operating. Yeah. Happy birthday, Gary. Just wanted to make sure that we could crush your wrestling dreams. Boy, when they say wrestling is fake, that takes it to a whole new level, doesn't it? You know, you think about it. You think about these guys getting slammed through tables and everything else. Makes you wonder if they're real at all. Yeah. Makes you wonder if they're real at all. Another form of robot wars. Isn't that the Sunday morning show, Robot Wars, where they have the little remote control robots, and they try to blow each other and kill each other and stuff with those? Yeah. I'm looking to see if all right, Drew Hernandez put this up. Here comes the installed police state for the UK. Here we go.
Be in no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves. This is not protest. It is organized, violent thuggery, and it has no place on our streets or online.
Yeah.
Be in no doubt.
And I don't think that he's talking about the Muslims that were walking around with, or the warriors of Islam walking around with, things to chop people's heads off and stuff like that. Yep. Here we go. Brits are smashing up the Holiday Inn Hotel in Rotherham, where asylum seekers are being housed on their dime.
Stumped over, it's stumped over. We've tipped over the boiling point here. Fucking hell. They're in there. Go in there!
You think they've about had it yet? Yeah. All right, we're going to finish it out with this one here. Please watch This America. While I'm talking to you right now, women are, here we go.
While I'm talking to you right now, women are being raped by members of the cartel to cross this border. Not once, numerous times. A child will die today on the border. Women and children are going to be smuggled in this country and forced into sex trafficking. We already found a bunch of kids working in a meat packing plant, cleaning up entrails at midnight shift, not getting paid a dime because they were trafficked. In the meantime, over 400,000 children have been smuggled in this country in the hands of criminal cartels. Self-separated from their families, put in the hands of criminal cartels. They're releasing kids and now they can't find 100,000 of them? Do not tell me that this administration's policies is humane. I said it before, they're killing Americans at record numbers, they're killing migrants at record numbers, and they're causing a sex trade of children that are undeniable. Well,
Yeah. Just a big fiasco, right? You know, and we're watching it all. We're living it. We're experiencing it. We're seeing it. We're talking about it. We're trying to do everything we can about it. You know, all you can do is pray for a better future, right? All right. With that, I want to remind you, our blessed Creator, the Creator of heaven and earth, He loves you. His Son, the Christ, He loves you. Whether you call Him Jesus or you call Him Yeshua, He loves you, and I love you. And we'll see you again, probably tomorrow. I'm not sure. I don't think I've gone a day without podcasting in about 9 days, so I might take a day off. And I still got to get fuel. So we'll work on both of those things. And I might see you tomorrow. If not, you'll see me on Tuesday. All right. Peace.